today. A lot of different topics. We're going to be talking to our very own Brett Bogansky about this Department of Justice press conference that just wrapped up not too long ago, where they were announcing a historic trade fraud enforcement crackdown, and they announced it right in Bensonville, which we know is right near O'Hare, and we know O'Hare is a major international cargo hub, so that will be an interesting conversation that we will have with Brett. We're also going to be talking to Dr. Selwyn Rogers, who is the founder of the University of Chicago's Trauma Center. What's really interesting about the doctor is that he's written a book. It's called Healing the Gun Violence Epidemic. But in 2022, I actually interviewed him alongside two other doctors at the hospital. And at that time, they were seeing 5,000 patients on an annual basis, trauma patients. So that will be a really interesting conversation to see if that number has gone up. Has that number gone down? And what has he seen in his position to really prompt him to write this book? And we also know that for the very first time, we are going to hear more from the Chicago Fire on their new player, considered to be one of the greatest strikers in history, at least right now. His name is Robert Lewandowski. He's 37 years old, and we're going to go live to that press conference. We know that the Chicago Fire has been working to rebuild their club. They're going to have a new facility here soon, right in the city of Chicago. So that will be really interesting to hear all of what he is going to bring to the team. And of course, we know FIFA World Cup, we're approaching that to happen over the weekend. So a lot of soccer enthusiasm, so to speak. We're also going to be talking to folks that are part of this. I've never heard of this before, but apparently this is a real thing. There is a paper airplane world record holder, and we're going to be talking to those folks who built this thing. It says, let me get this right, the finished plane had a wingspan of 65.75 feet and measured 23 feet long. We're also going to be talking to the folks over at NASA. Maybe sometimes you say, man, I want to go to another planet. Well, this is your opportunity. You won't literally go to another planet, but they're going to simulate what it will be for folks who decide that maybe they do at some point want to live on Mars. They're going to give you a simulation, and they're looking for people to be a part of it. We're going to talk to them right here on Chicago Live. We have a lot coming up on the show. We're going to talk about weather, of course. That is a big topic as well. If you've stepped outside, you wanted to step back in, but we know some of our neighbors can't. They work outdoors, and we know it's really hot out there. We see a lot of people out there on those boats, and really interesting looking at the bean. Most people are tucking underneath it to get into that shady part of the bean because it is really a scorcher out there. We're going to be talking about that as well. Stay with us right here on Chicago Live. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back. Chicago Live. It is 1:05 on your Tuesday afternoon. We were talking about the Department of Justice with this presser that they had earlier announcing a historic trade fraud enforcement crackdown. And what I found really interesting about what they had to say there, we're going to go to Brett Bugansky here shortly, but they said within 98 days, over 900 enforcement actions have taken place. Let's go to Brett Bugansky now, who knows a little bit more about what was said at this press conference. Brett, I'll start with this. Was there anything that came out of that press conference that you had never heard before that may have been a complete shock to you?
Too shocking, but the fact that they said in a 10-month period they've already hit $1 billion in items that were seized through U.S. Customs and Border Protection. And we're talking about things that they were on display today, where they had these illegal vape cartridges that were coming from China because they market them toward children and they're not FDA approved. They had these drones from, I believe they were also from China, and then also legitimate real gold that was coming from India and the United Arab Emirates, where they would lie about the place of origin, so they would either have to avoid paying a duty, or they would say they would just completely avoid it altogether and try to smuggle it in. And they were able to do it through some kind of data processing through these systems that they have in place through Customs and Border Protection, to find out that a lot of this stuff was just against the law, that they were trying to smuggle it into the country here. And one of the questions I had is, okay, this is the stuff you were able to seize, and this is the stuff that comes from O'Hare Airport in Chicago, where they're trying to smuggle it in, since it is one of the world's busiest airports. It's one of the biggest ports of entry. What's the stuff that you weren't able to get? Because that's the other thing. And even though when you heard from Assistant Attorney General Colin McDonald from the government, I was able to speak with Andrew Boutros, a U.S. Attorney for the Northern District of Illinois. He actually gave me a dollar amount. He said, even though it's difficult to track these things, he said the stuff that comes into our country illegally probably totals around $350 billion, which is that is an alarming number. And why it all matters is that this is money that should be taxed, should be coming into the United States, that pay for government services, your roads and bridges, your public safety, your public schools. These are all things that we're all taxed, and some people are trying to avoid the system. And then there's also this market where you have people making these illegal products in slave labor or forced labor, and many of them are children. So there is a real dark side to some of these products that may appear cheaper, and they're banned in the United States, and they're banned for good reason.
No, very important point there that you bring up about children. We obviously have laws on the books here in the United States, but there are many countries where there are no laws essentially protecting children, and so they are being forced into this work environment at a very young age. I thought really interesting to hear too that they coordinated with more than 30 U.S. attorneys' offices. I want you to kind of give me the lay of the land. We saw on our vantage point, watching it play out on TV, it appeared to be this big warehouse. Was this a big warehouse where they had boxes stacked to the ceiling, so to speak, where you were at?
It was. It was a big warehouse, and there's a lot of fences around the area, and a lot of the stuff is being checked for customs to see if it was actually brought into the country legally. And what they showed us was those large pallets, and a lot of that was part of some shipments that they said were going to be seized. So they had, and I'm going through my notes right now looking at all the things, because there was a lot that we had to get to here. But just from the vape seized, there were some FDA violations. They're not allowed because of the certain flavors that are going for kids. But they were talking like in gold and jewelry from India and the UAE. That was the picture they were showing. It was $750 million. Those were gold bars and part of U.S. currency that were seized. And then you had some other ones. They were talking about this money laundering operation from May of 2026. $549.5 million violated from the False Claims Act, from some anti-dumping, some aluminum extrusions from Canada. They said that it ended up coming out to $1.8 billion in owed duties to the United States here. So this is, again, it goes into, this is just the stuff that they were able to catch. Some of this stuff here, it probably comes on a daily basis, but we're talking big money here. Oh, here we go. I found the clip right here with the illegal vapes. $80 million in seizures of the illegal vapes here. There's flavors and aspects. They said the reason that they're illegal, they're not FDA approved. We don't know how the manufacturing process is, and we frankly don't know what's in these things. So it's another reason why it's illegal, but it's also it's dangerous because some Americans are consuming these products, whether knowingly or unknowingly, and they're taking a huge risk here. And because we don't know what's in there, this could potentially get people even sicker. Some people could die from this.
I want to go back to something you said about those vapes. That sounds like a lot of illegal material there. Do we know where it was being shipped to on the United States side? And then the people that were set to receive it, or even the people that were shipping it, are they in trouble, or is that a whole process to track all of those individuals down?
I know they didn't go into specifically in a lot of these different cases here. They did name a few people in a couple of different cases here because they were kind of jumping around. They started with how this all began in 2008 and how Chicago was this place where it was sort of the beginning of this illegal market where people were sending things to the United States from countries like China, the UAE, India, because there was certainly a market for this. And they said because of the prosecutions over the years, we've gotten to this level now where we're finally starting to put more resources into the federal level so they can prosecute some of these cases here. But for the people who are, whether they're manufacturing it, they're selling it, or they're buying this, they made it very clear that if they find out that some of these American companies are indeed knowingly buying something that is illegal in the United States, they will be prosecuted. There will be fines here. I mean, and that's the stuff that can result in prison time. And this is a very serious offense because you're breaking federal laws here.
Yeah, well, you mentioned U.S. Attorney Andrew Boutros there, Brett, and you had a one-on-one interview with him. Can you tell us some of the highlights of what we can expect this afternoon on the news from that one-on-one conversation?
What I ended up talking to him about was not only the press conference from today, the $1 billion in illegal items that were seized through Customs and Border Protection, but I said, do you mind if I ask you about some other topics? So that included Broadview, that included the Trinidad case where the case was sealed. He wasn't supposed to talk about that. And the one time, and he was very even keel during the whole interview, but the one time where he sort of he got a little heated was when I asked him about what his response would be to Mayor Brandon Johnson and some Chicago City Council members who said he should resign as U.S. Attorney for the Northern District of Illinois. That's where he got a little short with me and referred to his statement, but I said, well, you're here, I want to hear from you. And he was defending his action, saying we're going after fraud. There's a lot of fraud around the Chicagoland area, and I'm not going to stop. So he is not intending on resigning as a U.S. attorney, but this is coming as a matter of 100 attorneys in his office have resigned in protest over how he's handled some of these cases, including Broadview 6. And I was asking about the fact that there was this error with the prosecution with Trinidad, where he got admonished by a federal judge saying it wouldn't happen again. He wasn't given any kind of sanctions. He wasn't held in contempt of court. But I asked him, I said, is it possible that error resulted in the fact that you guys are down so many attorneys and there's a lot of institutional knowledge that had left your office? And he brushed that off and he said, well, what you guys aren't talking about is the fact that we are hiring more attorneys. But there's definitely some criticism from his office about how they've handled things and how even in the Broadview 6 case, which was very controversial as it was, all charges went from one thing and then they were narrowed down, and then some of the charges were dropped, and then narrowly in May of this year, all charges were dropped. And some would say his office dropped the ball, and he got very defensive during our interview.
Yeah, it'll be very interesting to see that conversation. Well, we know it's hot out there, Brett. We know you're working hard, sitting in that AC you need to be. We look forward to seeing your report. Remind the folks that are watching what time they can see your report this afternoon.
So it'll be on at 4 and 5 o'clock tonight, and then there'll be some version on at 9 o'clock. But of course, you can always see all of our stories, including several other stories that we've mentioned about U.S. Attorney Andrew Boutros, the Broadview 6, the murder cases involving the friend of Nicaragua being from Venezuela. You can see all of those on the website. That's Fox Chicago.
All right, perfect. Brett Bogansky, and whoever your photographer is, we send you cool wishes from here at Fox 32, because I know how hard it can be being out there in those elements. I was out there yesterday, so make sure, if nothing else, you stay hydrated and stay cool. Thank you so much for that report. Who are you trying to show me back here?
I got Jacob,
Jacoby.
and I got Stefan.
Oh, you got everybody. You got the whole crew with you. Hey, Stefan. Hey, Jacob. All right. Thank all of you. I appreciate you guys. There he is, trying to get some camera time as always. All right. Thank you so much.
Working men.
All right. See you later, Brett. Thank you. That was a really good insight and information into exactly what happened at that press conference. Of course, as Brett said, you can catch it all on our airwaves, fox32chicago.com. Of course, we'll be streaming on YouTube. Maybe you're watching us on Facebook. You can watch there as well. Okay, we want to take a quick break, and we're going to talk about some other really important stories that are making headlines right here in Chicago, including that of Dr. Selwyn Rogers. If you don't know who he is, I suggest that you go look him up. He has been instrumental as a person known for dealing with trauma. And we're talking about injuries here in the Chicagoland area. One of the founders helped to create the University of Chicago's Trauma Center. Well, he's written a book, and we're going to talk to him all about that when we come right back. Stay with us. Welcome back to Chicago Live, 119 on your Tuesday afternoon. There's a lot happening, not just here in the Chicagoland area, not just in Northwest Indiana, but really across our nation. And we want to actually go to our nation's capital right now, where the Supreme Court budget hearing is underway. This is right before Congress. And what you have here, if you're looking at this, we know there was a rare appearances by Justices Amy Coney Barrett and Elena Kagan, I should say. They testified before Congress. This is the first Supreme Court budget hearing with sitting justices since 2019. The court has been requesting more funding. The Supreme Court is asking for approximately $228 million for fiscal year 2027. And if you're curious, that's about a 10% increase over the current budget. In terms of the priority here, we know security is top of mind. Justice Kagan actually said threats are rising against the judiciary, and are projected to increase about 38% this year, following an increase that happened last year. So that is what they're pushing for right now. The court wants roughly $14.6 million for additional security personnel, and that includes more protective agents for absolutely every single justice that sits on the bench. And they also want an off-site residential security facility to make sure that they are protected. So that is being discussed as of right now. We want to take you somewhere else. We want to take you also to South Carolina, where we know Darlene Graham, that is the sister of Lindsey Graham. She was sworn in. She's going to be as South Carolina's newest U.S. Senator. And this is happening just 3 days after the sudden death of her brother, Senator Lindsey Graham. She becomes the first woman ever. So this is historic to represent South Carolina in the U.S. Senate. And this is right now a temporary role. So South Carolina's governor appointed her to serve the remainder of Lindsey Graham's current term, which we know ends January of 2027. A special election this fall will determine who serves the next full 6-year term. And I don't know if you know this, but there's a deeply personal story here. After both of their parents died within 15 months of one another, Lindsey Graham became his youngest sister's legal guardian when he was 22. She was just 13, and they remained exceptionally, I should say, close throughout his political career. And this is going to be really interesting to see, you know, what she has to say. Her brother, again, had to be heartbreaking, has to be still traumatic for her, just passed 3 days ago. So we will be eyeing that to see how that plays out as well right here on Chicago Live. We wanted to take it when it happens. It hasn't completely happened yet. But I can tell you her message. I want to walk you through what Darlene actually had to say during Monday's announcement. She said, and this is a direct quote from her, "Lindsey has always been there for me. Now I will be there for him." And she pledged to continue the work of her brother and what he really started in the Senate. She has never held, I think this is important to note here, an elected position, but has worked in South Carolina state government, including serving as a commissioner of the state's Commission for the Blind and also in workforce development. Her appointment is backed by the President Donald Trump himself as well. And you may say, well, why does this matter? Why is this important? Her appointment restores Republicans to a 53-47 majority in the Senate while Congress considers major legislation. So just to give you an idea of what's the background here, what's kind of the background workings and dealings of this appointment, that is it. So we'll be watching to see how that plays out with Darlene Graham. Keep it right here to Chicago Live. We want to keep watching this. When it happens, we will bring it to you live right here. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Accompanied by security personnel only when I participated in work-related public events. We began expanding our security program in earnest in 2017, initially at the behest of members of Congress. We engaged government and private industry experts to evaluate our needs. We started by expanding personal security beyond the Chief Justice so that associate justices also received small security details. Much too small, as it later turned out. As threat assessments called for larger details, and as overtime costs correspondingly rose, we requested funding for more officers, vehicles, and support staff. As events at the Capitol and other federal courthouses revealed our building's vulnerabilities, we also added new physical security systems. When personal threats increased following the leak of the court's Dobbs opinion, we expanded our residential security and threat assessment activities still further. Similarly, as online attacks grew in number and sophistication, we requested additional cybersecurity resources. Our strategy has been consistent: expand incrementally but effectively to meet evolving security challenges. We aren't alone in this. Although orders of magnitude smaller, the Supreme Court's police department is modeled after your own Capitol Police Department. The two departments have matching pay tables and similar organizational charts. They work closely together on threats pertaining to the Capitol campus and beyond. They also face many of the same challenges, especially officer recruitment and retention, and they have implemented many of the same solutions to address those challenges. Over the last 5 years, the Capitol Police Department's annual operating needs have increased 70%, a figure similar to the court's. For fiscal year 2027, Capitol Police requested a 16% increase. As neighbors, our two police departments will continue to work cooperatively together. Our respective police departments' growing needs are obvious given current conditions. The Capitol Police Chief recently testified that threats against Congress are up 50% this year. The Supreme Court police expect a smaller but still substantial 38% annual increase in threats this year, which follows a 25% increase last year. For some of us, those threats have come very close indeed, as the chairman indicated, and all of us live with the knowledge that they may again materialize. But as the Chief Justice has said most recently in his annual statement, all members of the court continue to do their jobs as they believe legally right, adjudicating cases without fear or favor. We are grateful to the Supreme Court Police for all they do to support our ability to do so, and grateful to our appropriators in the Senate and the House for the resources that are necessary to achieve that goal. While we cannot comment on decisions or pending cases, Justice Barrett and I are happy to answer any budget-related questions you may have. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
And I'm going to now turn it to the committee chair, Senator Collins.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. First of all, let me welcome our distinguished witnesses today. It's a great honor to have you here to respond to our questions. I could not help but think, as I heard Justice Kagan's comments about the 38% increase in the number of threats, that it is increasingly dangerous to be a Supreme Court justice these days. And it's appalling to me that some of the rhetoric is coming from public officials on both sides of the aisle who should know better than to levy personal and political attacks against the judiciary and the court specifically. For example, a senator stood in front of the Supreme Court building and called out two members by name, saying that they had released the whirlwind and that they will pay the price. Other public officials have called the court corrupt, out of control, and serving an extremist agenda. This overheated language, this completely inappropriate rhetoric against the Supreme Court endangers the lives of the justices and erodes public trust in our system of government.
welcome back to Chicago Live. It is 1:31 on your Tuesday afternoon. We were talking about ER doctor and founder of University of Chicago's Trauma Center, Dr. Selwyn Rogers, all of the amazing work that he's been doing. I want to bring him into the conversation right now. Good afternoon to you, Dr. Rogers.
Good afternoon. Thanks for having me.
It's so good to see you. The last time I interviewed you, I think it was in 2022. I know since all of that, you've actually written a book of your own. It's interesting that we have the ambulance going by as we're having this conversation, but you have your book there, Healing the Gun Violence Epidemic. Tell me, about your book. I know that inspiration has to be drawn from what you've seen on a daily basis, but tell me really the premise of your book.
Well, thanks so much for having me. I'll start by saying after 3 decades of taking care of traumatically injured patients and the past 8 years here at the University of Chicago Medicine, it's been an honor and a privilege to serve the communities of the South Side and beyond. But what has been amazing to me is in a short period of time, over the past 8 years that we've been open as an adult level 1 trauma center, we've seen remarkable impacts, not just of the University of Chicago Trauma Center or all the other trauma centers in the city of Chicago, but more importantly, the evolution of community violence interventions and the overall ecosystem that is leading to decreased amounts of impact of gun violence in the communities that we serve.
No, you bring up a very good point. It seems like there's been this influx of conversation surrounding crime, violence, intervention programs. For example, we know here in the city of Chicago, there's the Department of Violence Reduction now that is, trying to make sure that, crime goes down. Before we get into all of your book and what it has to offer, I want to walk through something. I remember it profoundly when I interviewed you in 2022. At that time, at the trauma center there, you guys were seeing roughly 5,000 patients on an annual basis. Has that number gone down or has that number gone up?
Well, it's interesting. The number's actually gone up. We see over 6,000 trauma victims each year now. But part of that is our catchment area continues to expand. As some people may or may not know, there's no level 1 trauma center in Northwest Indiana. And, the border of Indiana is only 20 miles away. So sometimes the most severely injured patients, a car accident or a gunshot wound in Gary or Hammond, Indiana, we're the closest level 1 trauma center, with the next closest being all the way down in Indianapolis, which is over 5 hours away. And with our extensive UCAN, our University of Chicago Aeronautical Network, we can have someone transported from Gary or Hammond within 15, 20 minutes and give them life-saving care.
I want you to talk about, because in your book, you touch on the cost of gun violence. And I think, sometimes, at least on this side of things, it's a numbers game in some ways, sadly, because what we do is we're recording the numbers of the crimes. And then later on the news, we say, man, that was a great year, or man, that was a really bad year. And so we're not seeing these lives always. I don't want to diminish our work, because sometimes we do get a chance to talk to, the victims' families and see how that has, had a huge impact on lives. But I want you to talk about that part of your book, looking at the cost of gun violence here in the city of Chicago and really what that means from your perspective.
Well, thanks for that question. We often think about the costs in terms of dollars versus the cost in terms of human lives. And one of the things that I want to fully recognize is that our emergency medical services, our Chicago Fire Department, Chicago Police Department do an incredible job of bringing patients to level 1, highest level of care trauma centers. And we do our best to save people's lives and decrease the impact of violence on their lives. But ultimately, the best trauma centers are the ones that are parts of a community that prevents trauma from occurring in the first place. And that's really the work of community organizations that are doing this work on street corners and in blocks all over the city of Chicago. I want to emphasize something about the cost beyond numbers and dollars. I want to emphasize the cost in human lives. When someone is injured, it affects not just them, but their families, their schools, their churches, their mosques, their places of worship. And in so many ways, it has a ripple effect on everyone who touches that person's lives, including healthcare providers, nurses, doctors, social workers, environmental services staff who work in the trauma bay. And it touches all of us. And the human cost is incalculable. And that's why I've really tried to hearken in the book the important role of prevention. I make the case 2 points of prevention.
Yeah.
Preventing things from happening in the first place, but also preventing recurrent injury after someone's already been injured.
And I know you've been saying that for quite some time. You actually went before Congress at one point to tell them to invest in evidence-based violence prevention. And you actually sit on the boards of violence prevention nonprofit programs. Tell me why you think that is so important, because I think sometimes, the way that our world works, it gets political. Everything these days gets so political and become a political conversation. And so what you often hear is when we talk about violence reduction, depending on who's proposing it, it becomes this political battle. Why is it so important? And I'm sure you've seen the results of why it can be really important to the community at large.
Thank you so much for that question. I really think we need to go upstream and focus on preventing injuries, especially from gun violence. I leave the hospital, leave the trauma bay, leave the operating room to be part of several street outreach organizations like Integrity and Fidelity, the Institute for Nonviolence Chicago, that's primarily in the West Side and back of the yards, and Chicago Cred, creating real economic destiny that former Secretary of Education Arnie Duncan is executive director of, because that's really where the hope is. It's really in community, with community, for community. And ultimately, it's that connection to individuals. I've been blessed, as you have, I'm sure, to have lots of mentors, family, people in your life who believed in you. Yeah. And I think we have to do more of that. That human connection is really where hope lies. And I am pathologically optimistic and hopeful that we can have a better tomorrow.
No, I agree with you. And, growing up here in the city of Chicago, I've seen that violence that you're talking about firsthand and the trauma, because not only are we talking about trauma as an injury for perhaps a gunshot wound or something like that, but I'm talking about the trauma that lasts here for some people for the rest of their lives if not treated. I want you to walk me through your life, your time. You were able to be the founder of this. Some of what you've seen, because you have had, I don't want to say a bird's eye view because I don't want to diminish your role here, but you've seen some things that maybe people like myself or people that will watch this have never seen in their lifetimes, but you have seen it consistently. Can you walk me through maybe some of the circumstances or something that you've seen in your role there that, I'm sure it's all heartbreaking, but something that is memorably just heartbreaking, tragic, and really tells the story of why you're pushing for, intervention and for something to be done to stop this?
Well, I could tell you so many stories, and my book, Healing the Gun Violence Epidemic, it was a labor of love, but it was driven out of just sheer agony. There's nothing more heart-wrenching than doing everything that you can to try to save someone's life. Everything heroic that we know and we're trained to do and are unsuccessful, and with, sadly, the person's blood on your hands, and you go into the quiet room to share that most devastating news with someone you've never met, that you were intimately involved with their loved one, and you share that news that their loved one is now dead. And it's a burden that I live with every day for every single family member that I share that with. And sometimes there's a screech, sometimes there's yelling, sometimes there's silence, and every time there's sadness. And every time I wish I could have done more. And every time I wish that it never happened in the first place. And that's what the book is largely about, restoring hope.
Yeah, we need hope, which I'll be honest with you, Dr. Rogers, sometimes when you're in the thick of it, it's hard to see the hope. I mean, that's a hard thing, to make that turn to feeling doubt, to feeling, all of the negative feelings that come with, the headlines that we see. You're living it a little bit differently from your perspective than I am, but still, it can be very difficult. I want to ask you this question, Dr. Rogers. You decided to write a book. There are people in your profession who go home, they take the paycheck, and it's work for them. It's not, this labor of love, as you said, and care and empathy. They don't have that. It's literally like putting blinders on. What made you so invested in change, in hope? What led you down that path? Because for some people, we could say that in the news industry, it's just another story, and we move on to the next, and whatever happened to so-and-so is in the past. What made you decide you would take some of what you've seen, keep the hope, and also write a book?
Well, my colleagues everyone's different in how they respond to stress and trauma and loss. I've taken on a bit of a pathological optimistic view that despite the sadness and the heaviness that happens today, I get some rest, I have faith and family and the love of friends, and get some relaxation and time away. And I'm optimistic the next day that today is going to be better than yesterday. And that pathological optimism keeps me going, but also the stories that I get to be part of in people's lives. I get to meet people on the worst days of their life, and you see incredible love, incredible resilience, incredible passion. And sometimes you say to yourself, how are you still standing? And people say things like, I don't have a choice. I have kids to take care of. I have a sick father at home. And when people share those stories, I say to myself, how can I not be more hopeful? How can I not do everything I can to help the person in front of me? And sometimes I think that by being a father of 3 African-American sons, 30, 27, and 24, they're my boys, they're my big boys, they're all bigger than me. I'm 6'4", 200 pounds, and my sons tower over me. And, I hope that they look up to me, but I know in many ways I look up to them physically, but they're my greatest joy. And I just hope that other people can feel that joy in their friends, their family, their loved ones, the same joy that I have with the people that I care about in my life.
You bring up a good point, and if nothing else, I think it's also important to note that, you're alive, right? You're alive to do this work, considering that I'm sure sometimes you see people leave that hospital, maybe came in injured, and sadly leave in body bags as well because of the gunshots. But there are a lot of lives that you've been able to save. And in fact, when I was there, I spoke with you, and it was 2 other doctors that were there with you about the lives that you've been able to touch, people that you've been able to save that, again, like you said, have been there on their worst day, shot up beyond recognition, right? Because of maybe gun violence that played out right in front of them, but you've been able to nurse them back to health, so to speak. So those are some of the stories too that I remember you vividly sharing with me when I was there on the property. Anything you want to say before we let you go? First off, where can people get your book?
Amazon, Google Books, anything online. Many libraries are going to be putting it on their shelves as well. But you can literally just Google healing the gun violence epidemic, and it'll pop up on any of the various websites. There's an audiobook also being released August 4th, and hopefully it'll get translated into other languages as well with time. My last comment is something you just said.
Yeah, go ahead.
Some of the patients that have been injured in the past, victims of gun violence, have become some of our community violence intervention workers, specialists, street outreach workers, and in so many ways, some people that are closest to the problem are best solutions to the problem. And giving those people a chance who want, if you will, redemption, impact in the communities can be incredible, powerful messengers to the next generation of people who may be injured or victimized.
No, that's very true. And I know you said that your sons, you look up to your sons, but I look up to you. I think you're doing phenomenal work there. And most importantly, you've remained humble, right? There's some people that get these big titles, they write these books, and the humility leaves their system. You still have it. And so we appreciate the work that you do every single day. And we're happy that you were able to come on Chicago Live and highlight some of that work, including your book as well. So thank you, Dr. Rogers.
My
It's been an
wife and
absolute
my
pleasure.
kids keep me humble. Take out the trash. Didn't we talk about this already?
We did. We talked about that. I remember that. I remember you saying that. They were younger than what you mentioned there, so they were a little, I think one may have been off to college at the time or still a teenager.
Yes, great memory. One just graduated from Northeastern in Boston, and the other just graduated from the University of Chicago's Social Work School and is here in Chicago. So you have a fantastic memory. Yes, they're fine young men. I'm very, in so many ways, so proud to be a dad, and that's been my greatest accomplishment.
Yeah, I want to go back to something, though, before I let you go, Dr. Rogers, because I want to touch on the obvious here. And I think sometimes on the news, we kind of play shy about certain things. But I think it is worth noting as well that a lot of the people, and not to say that every single victim of gun violence is a black person, right? But we do know that gun violence here in the city of Chicago does plague black males more often than any other resident that's living here in the city of Chicago. I'm curious, what has been that interaction like for you? Because oftentimes when you're in a hospital setting and you've been shot or whatever, it's not often that a black male encounters you who's on the other side of that, you know, that white coat. And so I'm sure that has played into some of the dialogue, and maybe some of what you've said to some of these individuals maybe has reshaped their lives, made them think twice about some of their behavior, because maybe they can see the hope in you of what you've become in your life.
So I'll add that I truly value diversity of all types, not just of how people look, but in terms of people's thoughts and ideas. And one of the strengths of our trauma center is that we have a very diverse group. But I have 4 African American men as trauma faculty, so that's not random. And they're the best of the best. And I seek excellence, and I demand excellence. And that's what our patients deserve. But I'll give you a specific example. I was walking by, I have my white coat on and a white shirt on and a tie. This is my uniform when I'm not in the operating room wearing scrubs, if you will. And I was walking by the emergency department. There was a 5-year-old black boy whose eyes were bugging out. They were like, because he had never seen a black male doctor before. And I stopped, I shook his hand, and I said, "Nice to meet you, young man. What's your name?" And that probably was the most impactful thing I did that day. We need to do more of that. People need to see something that they probably couldn't have imagined. That's where hope starts.
No, very, very true. And I echo what you said there, because part of why I was there was because of the amazing staff that you have there, and that University of Chicago is one of the few hospitals in the country that has African American men, male doctors, working in a trauma center like what you have there. So I think at the time, #1 in the country, if I'm not mistaken. I'd have to go back to my old reporting that I did, but I'm pretty sure that was the narrative. But I do appreciate something that you said there that I think we get lost in when we talk about diversity, et cetera. We think diversity of skin color and not also diversity of mind, which is a huge deal, because you can be a certain color and your diversity of mind is not there. So that's a very important part of the conversation. Dr. Selwyn Rogers, it is always a pleasure And it's been a pleasure today. Thank you so much for coming on Chicago Live and spending some quality time with us. We appreciate you.
Thank you so much for the time. Have a great afternoon.
All right, you do the same. We'll stay right here. We wanted to go to the Chicago fire. Are we going to them now, Perry? Do we still have it? Okay, we do want to go to them. We'll make this hard transition here. They were introducing the best striker in the country right now, in the world, Robert Lewandowski. I got to slow that down. He's 37 years old. He's coming to us from Poland. Let's listen in.
He have on his teammate, you know, the players get to play with the players play at the absolute highest level for over a decade and a half, and you don't get that every day. And we hope that permeates throughout the entire club. The academy kids, when they're walking by the training field and they get to see, you know, Robert at work, that something rubs off on them. So really a big effect on the entire club. The second thing would be a connection to the city and the fans. I mean, this is, you know, we want to create something special for the city of Chicago, and Robert is a massive piece of that. The third thing, of course, is going to be winning. You know, Robert's won his entire career, and there's going to be a certain measurement. Okay, did we win with him? You know, everywhere he's been, he's won titles. He told me every year of his career he's won a title. So no pressure to us, right? And then finally, knowing Robert the way I do, you know, success is largely measured with him by how he scores goals. You know, he's a prolific scorer for a reason, because he loves to score goals. So that's definitely going to be a measurement that we're going to be looking at. But that I'm probably the most confident that he's going to do.
And you have the mic right here. To your right.
Cześć, Robert, Przemek Langer, Interia. Ja się tak zastanawiam, bo ty całe życie wymagałeś bardzo dużo od siebie, ale wymagałeś też bardzo dużo od innych i do tej pory grałeś w takich klubach, w których te wymagania mogły być spełniane przez twoich partnerów. Jestem ciekawy twojego mentalnego nastawienia, przygotowania, czy ty w ogóle brałeś takie rzeczy pod uwagę, szykując swoją głowę do tego transferu, że tutaj jednak ci partnerzy będą troszkę z innej półki niż na przykład ostatnio w Barcelonie.
Oczywiście, że przechodząc do nowego klubu, gdzieś tam analizujesz to, jacy są zawodnicy, jak to wygląda sytuacja, jak liga, na jakim poziomie jest i przede wszystkim kraj i kultura. To też ma wpływ na to, że jednak czasami trzeba się trochę dostosować do tego, co jest na miejscu. I tak samo było po moim transferze do Barcelony i pewnie tak samo będzie tutaj. Gdzieś z biegiem czasu na pewno jest mi trochę łatwiej się adaptować do tego i oczekiwać też na miarę takich rzeczy, jakie te oczekiwania mogą spełnić, czy możemy spełnić, więc jak najbardziej to nie jest tak jak jeszcze parę lat temu, że nieważne gdzie, nieważne z kim, to te oczekiwania były do każdego na takim samym poziomie, więc oczywiście na końcu mam nadzieję, że pomimo oczekiwań to też jakby poziom tych oczekiwań będzie dostosowany do tego, co można osiągnąć. Nie będzie on ani wyolbrzymiony, ani tym bardziej ani zaniżony, więc jakby oczywiście zdaję sobie tego sprawę, jestem tego świadomy, więc też przechodząc tutaj do Chicago, do MLS, no to jest też, zdaję sobie, że to jest inna liga, jest to inny typ trochę piłki nożnej albo patrzenia na piłkę nożną, że nie tylko bramki się liczą, ale też to, co się dzieje na boisku albo też i poza nim, więc oczywiście też będę na to otwarty. Moja głowa też będzie jakby patrzyła na to, jak to wygląda, jak to funkcjonuje i to też jest ciekawe doświadczenie. Będzie to też coś, co da mi pewnie kolejny punkt w moim rozwoju życiowym czy nawet piłkarskim, no bo każda liga trochę się różni. Też dobrze wiemy, jak to w Ameryce wygląda, jak kibice, ludzie na to patrzą w innych sportach, które się uprawia w Stanach Zjednoczonych, więc oczywiście pewnie jak w MLS też będą takie rzeczy, które będą przypominały więcej rzeczy właśnie ze Stanów Zjednoczonych, z Ameryki niż z Europy, więc zdaję z tego sprawę, jak najbardziej.
Buenas tardes, Omar Ramos de TUDN Chicago. Señor Greg, felicidades por el fichaje. Te quiero preguntar ahora en español. Mi estimado Roberto, bienvenido a la ciudad de Chicago. ¿Cómo te sientes físicamente, mentalmente? Yo sé que ha habido mucho movimiento para ti en las últimas semanas, pero ya estás aquí en Chicago. ¿Cómo te sientes mentalmente, físicamente? ¿Crees que puedes debutar ya este jueves con el Chicago Fire? Y además te quiero preguntar, has ganado mucho en Europa, desde la Liga hasta la Liga de Campeones. ¿qué tanto conoces tú la MLS? ¿Qué tan familiarizado estás con la liga de la MLS? ¿Qué te parece ahora ya que estás aquí arrancando con tu carrera con nosotros?
Buenos días. En principio sí, me siento muy bien. Creo que después de vacaciones, claro, necesito un poquito más tiempo para adaptarlo a equipo, también con entrenamiento, pero estaba entrenando último 4 semanas, pero sí, claro, individualmente el entrenamiento no es igual como en el equipo, pero creo que el día a día me siento mucho mejor. Especialmente después de viaje de ayer, de Polonia aquí a Chicago, era muchas horas en avión, pero estaba entrenando primera vez hoy con mi equipo, estoy muy contento. Creo que MLS estaba hablando también con jugadores como Bastian Schweinsteiger o Thomas Müller, y de los dos, por ejemplo, me explicaron cómo funciona MLS y estoy seguro que con mi nuevo equipo podemos hacer un paso adelante. Están haciendo buen trabajo. Estoy aquí no solo para jugar a top nivel, pero también para ayudar al equipo para hacer un paso adelante, no solo en el campo, pero fuera del campo también. Y sí, para mí, mi familia es poco... creo que es la vida un poquito otro que en Europa, en Barcelona, pero estábamos esperando para esto, pero sí necesitamos un poquito de tiempo para adaptarlo a la final, pero que yo dije antes, estoy muy contento para jugar en Chicago Fire y estoy muy contento para nueva experiencia en mi vida, y espero que la final de temporada podamos disfrutar algo, no título, pero sí, en principio creo que necesito un poquito de tiempo para adaptarlo, pero que lo veo en entrenamiento, que lo veo en la última semana también, creo que este club tiene muy buen futuro y estoy aquí para ayudarlo al equipo. Gracias.
Time for one more in the room, and then we're going to try to fit in one on Zoom.
There to Roger Lewandowski, who is our newest striker with the Chicago Fire, talking there about really what he hopes to do with the Chicago Fire. He is considered really the nation's one of the best strikers in the entire nation. So very good pickup for the team. But we do want to switch gears here. We know that Darlene Graham is set to be sworn in today. She's South Carolina's newest United States Senator, just 3 days after the sudden death of her brother, Senator Lindsey Graham. Let's take a listen in.
Oh, you want me in that picture too? You tell me when I'm supposed to get out of the picture.
You're the best looking one here.
Okay. Right here. Perfect, just a fan.
And then one more with her, if you don't mind. Thank you.
Eyes right here, please.
Is that it? Thank you.
God bless you. God bless all of you. God bless you. God bless you. Thank you. Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
So again, that is Darlene Graham, sworn in today. She will be filling the shoes of her brother, Senator Lindsey Graham, who I want to kind of point out this part of it. There's a deeply personal story here. So after both of their parents died within 15 months of one another, Lindsey Graham became his younger sister's legal guardian when he was 22 and she was 13, and they remained close and very close throughout his political career. And some may be asking the question, what was she doing before all of this happened, the sudden death of her brother, and how did she assume this role? Well, she has the backing of the governor there of South Carolina. She's 64 years old. lives in Lexington, South Carolina, had a career of a public servant. She focused on workforce development and services for people who are blind or visually impaired. There will be an election because that election period for Lindsey Graham would have run out January 2027. So there will be an election for the replacement there, but she is going to fill the role up until then. So you saw her there being sworn in right there in South Carolina. Well, stay with us right here on Chicago Live. We have much more coming up for you right here on the show. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Chicago Live. I'm trying my version now, which is no comparison. You're like, what are you doing? I'm trying to see if I can make a good paper airplane. I haven't made one in quite a long time. Not that great. Okay, we're going to bring in, because I told you at the top of this show, we like to have a little bit of fun here and some interesting stories as well. This is the largest paper airplane in the entire world, and it belongs to some students that decided to get behind this. A group of students from Italy's University of Pisa. We want to bring in co-founder and technical director into the conversation, Lorenzo Cioli, to talk about this. Lorenzo, good afternoon to you.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
So tell me about this. How did this even come to be that you guys would break a Guinness World Record?
All right, this was a pretty long project, and it started with a sort of semi-joke in between university lectures. Basically, it was 3 co-founders of the project. I was one of them. The other 2 were Emanuele and Filippo, and we all 3 were part of the aerospace engineering university course in Pisa. At a certain point in our university career, we became more and more interested in paper airplanes, traditional paper airplanes, just like the one you showed earlier. And we started doing our research. We started researching about what the optimal models were for distance and for flight times, etc. And basically, we came across this long-standing world record for the world's largest paper aircraft. At the time, it was 18-meter wingspan aircraft. We decided to try to beat it. Firstly, it was kind of a hypothetical question, like if we were to actually try to beat it, how could we do it? But we started gaining more confidence, and gradually our team grew. Our expertise grew, and very gradually, what started as a sort of semi-joke turned into concrete reality.
Okay, I got a lot of questions now. Because when I hear, how long you said theirs was their wingspan, tell me how much more was your wingspan compared to the previous record, and how much paper did you have to use to pull this off?
All right, those are good questions. Firstly, the wingspan for our record was something we decided extremely early on in the project because, as I said, the previous record was 18 meters, 0.2. We decided to go beyond 20 meters.
Wow.
Just because the number looked better to us, but we had made our preliminary calculations and they showed it was possible. Now, the amount of paper, actually the aircraft itself doesn't really weigh that much when you think about its dimensions, because it only weighs 28.5 kilograms. But of course, that weight had to be greatly optimized to make it as light as possible. However, for the sheer amount of testing and prototypes that were made, around 100 kilograms of paper were used.
Okay, so when you said that it weighs roughly 28.5 kilograms in pounds, that would be roughly almost 63 pounds. How much glue did you have to use to pull this off?
Yeah, this is interesting because from the Guinness World Record guidelines, glue is allowed, but only for structural components, not for aerodynamic surfaces. But for structural components, it is extremely necessary. From our estimates, it is about 20% of the weight of the aircraft, so around 5 to 6 kilograms. Of course, for testing and experimentation, a lot more has been used.
So what happens with this paper airplane now? Where does it live? Is it in your house? Where is it?
Yeah, it's now for this entire project, we worked in close collaboration with an Italian YouTuber and influencer. His name is Yahidale, and he has sort of provided some very crucial financial support as well. And he happens to own a sort of facility where the aircraft is now stored. However, of course, moving a 20-meter wingspan aircraft is not an easy task. So it was subdivided into 4-meter long parts, and now it's sitting in this storage area, subdivided in its parts. But there are talks of rebuilding it for expositions.
And so, as of right now, are you saying it's dismantled? It lives nowhere?
Yeah, it's pretty much dismantled into an organized array of parts. It's basically subdivided into 7 different parts, and it is in this Italian YouTuber's facility, which I know where it is, but none of the team members have been there. But of course, we completely trust him.
So I'm going to ask you a question that's a little off the cuff here. I know you go to University of Pisa, so I do want to ask you, because we're talking about structures, right? We're talking about paper airplanes. Obviously, yours is way more sophisticated than this thing that I created. But I want to talk to you about the Leaning Tower of Pisa, because obviously it leans, but there's been this push over the last 3 decades to straighten it. From your vantage point, is it getting straighter?
Yeah, I think it's pretty much stable now. I mean, I've always lived in Pisa, so I've seen it throughout the years, and I think those efforts to straighten it were from before I was born. So in my lifetime, I've always experienced it as pretty much stable, which is how it's supposed to be, I guess.
Yeah, which is how it's supposed to be. So I want to go back to this record that you all shattered there. It was previously held by Germany. How long did it take you to build this paper airplane to the level that you guys got it at? How long did it take from start to finish?
All right, this is interesting because the entire project took 1 year and 8 months. So we started in October 2024, and the project had its conclusion in June 2026. So 1 year and 8 months, but most of it was experimentation and the production of smaller prototypes to test each and every one of our simulations. All of our results were validated, and then we moved on to the strictly production stage of the aircraft, which took place between the beginning of March 2026 till the end of June 2026.
Got it.
So 4 months, basically.
How many like rough drafts? I mean, I don't know if that's safe to say, but how many rough drafts did you have to go to get to the final product? Were there several editions of this paper airplane before you actually got to the making of the final version?
Yeah, there were, I think there were countless provisional drafts, but the prototypes which we actually realized and made and tested and launched in real life were 4. Basically, we started with a 2-meter wingspan model, then we moved on to a 4-meter, 8 meters, and finally 20 meters. Each of these models taught us something we were doing wrong with the previous one and something we would need to fix for the next one. So 4 incomplete prototypes, but many prototypes of singular structural components, which were the most reliant on testing and trial and error, basically. So I would estimate for the main supporting beam of the aircraft, more than 10 designs have been tested.
Well, this is absolutely remarkable. You've done something that is obviously incredible. It hadn't been done since 2013, where you shattered that previous record held by Germany. Lorenzo Cioli, thank you so much for coming on Chicago Live here in Chicago. We appreciate you very much.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
All right. And so that is really a word to the wise out there. Anybody that's watching right now, you know, when your kids do things, sometimes you're like, stop doing that. Stop acting silly. But they literally said, and it says here, it all started with a few paper airplanes between classes. It was a joke. And we were students convinced that with the right method, even a piece of paper could become real engineering. And there they are now, Guinness World Record holders. So it can all start with something as simple as this, folks. Stay with us right here on Chicago Live. Let's see if I can fly this one. We'll be right back. Nope, it was a dud. We'll be right back. I'll stick to journalism. welcome back to Chicago Live. It is 2:16 on your Tuesday afternoon. We have a lot of serious topics, but sometimes we have a lot of fun on this show as well. I was just chatting it up with the two producers of the show, Perry and Sasha, behind the scenes, having a good, candid conversation. Okay, we want to switch gears here because have you ever thought, man, sometimes I get sick of Earth. I want to live on Mars. A lot of people feel that way. Look at Perry being the peanut gallery there. We want to bring in Alexander Whitmire into the conversation because NASA is launching this year-long simulated Moon and Mars mission without folks ever leaving Earth. Alexandra, thank you so much for coming on the show with us this afternoon.
Thank you for having me.
Let's walk through this. So you're looking for 4 volunteers. What do they need to know and how can they, I guess, prepare for something like this?
Yeah, great question. So we have an upcoming simulation starting in August of next year, where we're asking 4 astronaut-like individuals to come at the Johnson Space Center and participate in a year-long spaceflight simulation, where we are mimicking a mission to the moon and a mission to Mars in that year. And this is to help us learn and get ready to prepare for those missions.
So I'm looking at, what will participants do? It says live in isolation for 12 months inside this simulated spacecraft, conduct simulated spacewalks, test equipment and technology, grow crops, perform scientific tasks. So with that being said, do you need to have some type of science background?
Yes, we are looking for individuals who have an undergraduate degree in the STEM field, so a science, math, engineering, ideally a graduate degree as well, or have had work experience or military experience. And the reason we look at that type of a background is because we want to take the results from the simulation and be able to apply that to future spaceflight. So that allows us to be able to generalize our findings in the end.
So walk me through this. What is the habitat like? And then I also want to know, since you're kind of like in isolation, does that mean, I don't want you to think I'm crazy, okay? But does that mean you're not using your cell phone for, extended periods of time? Like, are you kind of like out of touch from, whatever your real world was prior to becoming a part of this program?
Yeah, great question. So to your second part of your question about not having your cell phone. So indeed, you are mimicking a Mars mission. So you will be limited in your ability to communicate with the outside world. So we anticipate that crew members on this mission will be able to correspond with family, but there will be an extensive comm delay just because of the distance to Mars. So right now, what we're anticipating is for communication between ground support teams and families, speaking to crew members on the Mars surface, that takes about 20 minutes to get a message there, and then another 20 minutes to get a message back. So, and there are periodic times that these connections will occur. So that will be part of the simulation. We will include that communication delay. And this is just to help us understand how those types of changes and how that type of a mission can really, what we can do to prepare for those. So what methods might be out there to help offset that communication delay, for example. And so you asked about the habitat. This particular mission is over a year, and we are using 2 habitats that are at Johnson Space Center. The first one, it's about 600 square feet, and it looks like a space habitat. It's really meant to mimic more of the transit vehicle en route to Mars. And so the crew will spend about 5 months there. Then they'll come out of that habitat or that vehicle, transit vehicle, and go into a larger habitat that is made to look more like a Mars surface habitat. And they'll continue to conduct experiments and carry out the mission. And then after 2 months in that surface habitat, they'll go back into the transit habitat, the smaller transit habitat, for their 5-month journey home.
Perfect. Talk about, in terms of, the physical and the psychological part of this. Is there testing? And then also, like, what are you eating on a daily basis? Are there dietary restrictions that a person can or cannot have? Yeah,
so the psychological challenges, come in from that that isolation, that physical isolation, that psychological isolation, the limited communication with the outside world. And also just, part of it is that sort of monotony of that vehicle, right? So food is actually, very important aspect of any spaceflight mission. And I think, sadly for me, a little too much of my life, but it is an important aspect. And, but just like spaceflight, we're limited in the amount of volume and the amount of food variety that can go on a mission like that. So it will be a limited food supply, but that is mimicking a what we anticipate to be on a Mars mission. So it'll be nutritionally coherent, to be nutritionally enough for the crew to maintain, to get adequate nutrients, adequate calories, and some variety of flavors and types of food. But it won't be like walking into your pantry or being able to go to the grocery store.
Understood. Are applications open? And if so, how many people have applied so far, and will you get paid?
Yeah, so there is payment for this. I couldn't speak to how much that is, but it is a paid opportunity. And to apply, I think the best thing to do is an internet search for NASA MEA. So that's Moon and Mars Exploration Analog. So NASA MMEA, and that'll take you to more information and the application page as well. I do believe we've had several thousand apply, but wow. The applications are still open. Definitely want folks who are interested and feel like they qualify to throw their name in. So so that would be the best way to find that link.
And I know this is for volunteers that you're looking for. I know it's a simulation, but where are the people physically? They're physically in Houston, Texas?
Yes, they're physically in Houston, Texas at the Johnson Space Center, in a part of our Space Center where there's a couple of simulation habitats.
Has this ever happened before? Has NASA ever had anything like this offered to the public? People that are, obviously have some background in science, but has this ever been offered in this way before?
Yes, actually, we are having a one-year simulation underway right now. It's our second one that has happened at Johnson Space Center. So in terms of supporting a one-year mission, NASA has done that before. And we've had wonderful volunteers who participated in those. Again, it is folks, we are asking folks to take a year out of their life to participate. And so it is a big sacrifice. But for folks who have a vision for human spaceflight and want to make a contribution, this is certainly one way to do that. And this will be our third one-year mission. It's unique in the sense that it has different phases of flight, but it is our third one-year mission that's held here at Johnson Space Center.
This is really historic. Very interesting that this is even being offered. Talk about, you kind of mentioned it at the top of the interview. Talk about the goal, what NASA hopes to learn from these 4 volunteers that will participate. It says that it's set to start no earlier than August of 2027. Talk about what the goal here in terms of data collected, what you will learn from the 4 participants.
Yeah, so we've learned a lot historically from spaceflight missions. I mean, that has been incredibly informative from the early days of Apollo through the International Space Station, and we're learning through Artemis, and we'll continue to do so into Moon Base. But Mars missions will be inherently unique. Crew members will be gone. It's a 2 to 3 year mission to go on a journey to Mars. So that is a long time to be away from home. That's a long time to deal with communication delays, limited food supplies, all the things we were talking about. It is very unique. It will certainly shift how we've supported spaceflight to date. And so we will be using this opportunity to test methods and different technologies to help offset that sense of separation and of a delay. So there's the psychological countermeasure piece of it, is what we call it. And we're also going to learn a lot about spaceflight systems. We anticipate being able to test different interfaces and different programs that could increase the use of automation and things like that. So there's other stakeholders, other interests than just the psychological piece. It's really to help NASA get ready for these future missions to Mars.
Yeah, I was reading something. It said a journey to Mars could take 2 to 3 years round trip. Can you expound on that? What makes Mars different from any other space missions that have been done previously by NASA?
So we have, a wonderful recent mission with Artemis 2 going to the moon, which is, incredible, over 250,000 miles from Earth. And the missions that we have done to the moon, including the recent Artemis ones and the ones from the Apollo days, those missions have lasted about, up to 2 weeks. And while that is very informative, and we learn a lot from that, asking folks to take on a mission for 2 to 3 years is a different beast. It's going from like being able to run a sprint to really a very strenuous marathon. And so that takes training, and that takes understanding what are the inherent challenges of that mission. And we have learned a lot from long duration from the International Space Station, where we do have crew members who go on missions from 6 months to a year. And so they are certainly, in space, in weightlessness, far from home in that time frame, and we learn a lot there. But we do have with ISS, it's a different environment. We have real-time communication for the most part with ground support teams, with family back home, and we have the opportunity for resupplies and crew care packages and things like that. And just evolving, we saw this morning Dr. Neil Menon launching to ISS, fantastic, very excited for him. But we do have the exchange of crews every few months. And so even though you have a team there of anywhere from like 6 to 10 astronauts living on the ISS, and it's incredibly informative for us to get ready for Mars, those Mars missions will be really unique. We're talking about the same small group of team members embarking on this very long duration mission, that extended communication delay. And that communication delay really brings about a separation from support teams, and we really have to equip the crew to deal with anomalies and things on their own. So it's a whole different paradigm than what we've done so far in space. And so we are learning from the past and then using simulations like this as well to help get us ready.
Do we have a timeline? And I shouldn't say we, because I'm no scientist. I don't, you guys know way more about this stuff than I ever will. But is there a timeline for when NASA plans to go to Mars, make this mission happen?
Yes, I'm probably not the right person to speak to that.
It's okay.
But I will say the near-term goals is to keep extending the Artemis program and to build up to moon base. And so Administrator Isaacman and the current administration has laid out a wonderful path for NASA, for the spaceflight community, industry, and our international partners to embark on missions to the moon and establish a permanent presence on the moon. So that is the near-term goal. But that permanent presence on the moon really gets us ready for the next journey, which is Mars. So I don't think we're going to see a Mars mission in the next few years, but maybe in the next 10 years, we'll see. But that is the goal. That is a goal of the agency and of, I think, many folks in the spaceflight community.
Wow, I'll be much older and much grayer. I do think it's important to note here, the 4 selectees may also use a rover module, I should say, to simulate travel to exploration sites located beyond the main habitat. It includes, this is really cool, 2 driver's seats, 2 beds, a non-flushable toilet, and a small samples airlock. That's incredible. So this is really literally going to Mars.
So it's a rover it does resemble the type of rover that we would expect to be part of a lunar mission or part of a Mars mission. That rover in itself won't be making that journey, but we will, it is built similar to what we'd expect a rover there to look like and how it could function. And getting to study people kind of interacting in that rover, using that rover to conduct missions and excursions, will inform the development of future rovers. So it's incredibly important and valuable information that these participants will help us learn.
No, very good information that you provided. Very interesting as well. Alexandra Whitmire, thank you so much for taking time to come on Good Day. I almost said Good Day Chicago. That's another show that I do, Chicago Live. We appreciate you so much.
Thank you for having me. Thanks.
It was a pleasure. Thank you. Okay, stay with us right here on Chicago Live. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Chicago Live. It is 2:33 on your Tuesday afternoon. We want to talk about what's happened in the U.S.-Iran conflict. There's been a lot that has transpired from yesterday through today. We know the U.S. carried out another wave of military strikes inside Iran. This happened today, continuing a renewed campaign targeting Iranian military infrastructure. And we want to bring in Rich Kolko into the conversation to talk about really what is happening here. We thought we were, going towards the direction of peace. It does not seem like that ceasefire has held up, and we want to bring him into the conversation to talk about this. Rich, thank you so much for taking time out to be with us here on Chicago Live.
Of course, Tia. Thanks for having me.
I know you're a retired naval commander and FBI special agent. Can you kind of walk us through what is perhaps going on right now to try to figure out what's going on within this conflict?
Well, I tell you, your introduction, you talked about things changed between yesterday and today. They're changing by the minute here, so it's even more up to date than that. In about, 25 minutes, the naval blockade starts again. The president announced that that'll officially start. And Central Command out of Tampa said that at 4 p.m. Eastern, that blockade will go back into effect, and that's where the U.S. will stop ships from entering or departing Iranian ports in the Gulf there. So that's problematic. We've seen, as you said, the attacks have resumed over the last several days over military targets in Iran, and Iran has launched attacks at Gulf states. When we say Gulf states, it sounds like, Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar. Don't forget, those are headquarters for major U.S. bases. In fact, Bahrain is the headquarters for the 5th Fleet of the U.S. Navy. So they're actually attacking senior level facilities, not just some tents and some small buildings. It's actually going after U.S. forces there.
I want to talk about this part of it because we know Iran and the U.S. are about halfway through this 60-day interim ceasefire deal that was supposed to set up talks for a permanent end to this war. Do you see any chance of this war coming to an end based on what you've seen transpire here really in the last 72 hours?
It's going to come to an end. Just kind of depends when and what the circumstances are. I mean, just a little over a week ago, we were looking at July 4th, and this seemed to be in our rearview mirrors. And I think a lot of people hoped that was true, that we were done with this, with the fighting over there, and that things were going to start to get a little better. But it quickly devolved. We're back to the daily attacks. I think the combat operations have significantly risen. U.S. forces have actually started to pull out of the area a little bit, but you can expect them to head back into the area. So we have men and women in harm's way on a daily basis here, on an hourly basis. And something that's important to take into consideration here is when you're a military commander, one of your primary functions is what's called force protection. That's protecting your assets, which is your people and your ships or bases or airplanes. And normally you can kind of back off from the area a little bit and you get a little breather. You don't get that here, especially when it's fixed bases in the Gulf states. With these drones and these ballistic missiles, they can attack anytime, anywhere. So U.S. forces has to be in a very, very high state of readiness, and that's just very stressful for everybody involved.
Considering what you just said there, tell me, kind of what it means when the U.S. reinstates that blockade in the Strait of Hormuz. What is essentially happening there from your perspective, the military perspective on the ground?
Well, the U.S. has and anybody carrying out a blockade, there's steps that are taken, and it's contacting these ships, telling them what the rules are, and denying them the ability to go where they want to go. So any ships that want to come out of an Iranian port or head into an Iranian port are going to be talked to via radio, via some communications device, told that they cannot do that. The U.S. will have ships, drones, aircraft, tracking them, satellites, and they will do everything they can to block them up to the point of actually firing upon them. If you remember a couple weeks ago during the blockade, the U.S. fired on a couple ships that were going and disabled them, took out their engine rooms, took out their rudder, stopped them from being able to sail into or out of the ports in Iran. And it's very possible that we could be at that level again very, very quickly.
Yeah, that's obviously we don't want that, but it sounds like it could happen. You mentioned that, it's not a question of, really about the war coming to an end. It will end, but we don't know exactly when. What has to be the strategy here for this conflict to come to an end?
Well, I think the strategy has changed a little bit, or it's changed a lot over the months. But when we went into this, everything we heard about was Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. Well, that's kind of that was number one. That seems to have dropped down to number two, And right now, number one is get the Strait of Hormuz open. We need that open for commerce in the region and internationally. The economies of many nations are at risk because of this shutdown of Strait of Hormuz or the difficulties moving ships in and out of there. On a typical day prior to the war, 125 to 150 ships moved through. Now it's in the single digits the last couple days, couples that are just kind of sneaking through basically. So that's not going to carry on the commerce that's necessary. That oil has to get out of there. It has to get out into the economies of the world. But that'll raise a lot more money for Iran, and that could cause problems as well. That allows them to fund their proxies, the Hezbollah in Lebanon, Hamas in Gaza, the Houthis in Yemen, possibly other forces even in Iraq now. So it's just a deal. And the president and his negotiators have a lot to do. And I do want to add that I think this is so much more complex because of the social media. We've got the leaders of both countries that are putting out these social media posts, multiple times a day. And if you're the negotiator sitting there in a room trying to put things together, put together some sort of peace deal, it's hard to do that. You've got to be reading your phone, seeing what the leaders are posting, making things more complicated. So it's difficult.
No, you're absolutely right. We're in a very interesting time, especially given the rise of the usage of social media to kind of air out grievances in different ways. I want to talk to you about, really, is this something that you feel like, we keep talking about what's happening basically in the Middle East. Is this something that, for some of us, the Americans here at home, do we need to be concerned about anything happening on U.S. soil?
Great question. I was just doing a little research on that. There is a higher level of concern now. Iran will have difficulty doing a significant or real attack in the region on U.S. forces. They just, we took out their ships, took out their aircraft, took out their command and control. They've got the drones, they've got the ballistic missiles. They can cause problems. But that means they can switch to plan B, which is some sort of terrorist attack anywhere in the world. That includes the United States. Doesn't take a lot to do that. They can recruit or radicalize or pay for somebody to do something here in the U.S. So the FBI, other domestic law enforcement agencies, the intelligence community is working hard to track down any potential threats that may exist right here. But that is not going to go away, and you can expect just a higher level of concern going forward the longer this goes on.
No, very good points there, Rich Kolko. You obviously know your stuff, very insightful there. We appreciate you and we appreciate your time. We all need to be on high alert. That's what I took away from what you ended there with, and I'll keep it right there. Thank you so much for your time and coming on Chicago Live. We'll see you next time.
Thank you, Tia.
All right, thank you. Well, coming up, as I kind of end my time here on Chicago Live, at some point, Anita Blanton will take over. But before that, we're going to talk to the Home Run Derby champion. He is coming from Brother Rice High School. His name is Brady Cunningham. We're going to have him right after this really short break. We'll see you then. Welcome back to Chicago Live. It is 2:43 on your Tuesday afternoon. I want to bring in Brady Cunningham. He is the high school student I was telling you about. He is the home run derby winner for Brother Rice, and he's joining us right now to talk about this. Won the 2026 high school home run derby. Brady, thank you so much for coming on the show with us.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Oh, wow. Look at your trophy back there. Okay, so you're a Chicago native and you hit 9 home runs during the final round to secure this title awarded to you by Citizens Bank right there at Citizens Bank Park. Tell me, how do you prepare for something like that? How do you practice for something like this?
Yeah, I feel like ultimately I did what I could, but as soon as I stepped on the field, all that preparation went away and just tried to soak in the moment and enjoy while I was there.
So you're 6'2", and it looks like you're going to Texas A&M. Is that correct? You gave them a commitment already?
Yes, ma'am.
Wow. When did you start playing baseball? Tell me about your baseball journey of how you got to where you are today.
Yeah, ever since I can remember, I was playing baseball out in the backyard, playing catch with my dad, you know. Ever since I can remember, just enjoying those moments, and I feel like it's just been a part of me, and this journey I've been on, I've just been so blessed to be here and given all these opportunities.
So I'm looking at this. It says that you hit your first home run within 46 seconds left on that clock, but within 35 seconds remaining, you found your groove. What happened out there?
Yeah, I think the nerves finally went away. Everything just relaxed and got into a really good groove. The crowd was getting really into it, so it was a great feeling. Just kept swinging, barrel felt good through the zone, and it was awesome.
What does it mean to you to have this win, to have this trophy now sitting behind you? What does that mean for your baseball career, for you, you know, going on eventually to other things within baseball? What does it mean?
Yeah, it's definitely a great accomplishment. You know, this is something I'll always have. It's a memory I'll cherish forever. But I think it's just going to be one of those things where I'll just take this moment, soak everything in, and then I'll just take it one day at a time from here. Just try to be where my feet are, and just be grateful for what I've been blessed with.
So I'm told they dropped my mic down to give me some more background information on you. So this all happened in Philadelphia, and you were playing in a stadium where the professionals usually play. Was that intimidating for you? Had you ever played in a stadium that large before?
We played at Wrigley this year, so the Cubs Stadium for my high school team, but it was not nearly as packed as it was in Philadelphia. So my head was definitely spinning for a little bit. Had to take a couple of deep breaths, but it was awesome. Just looking around, seeing the stands packed, it doesn't get much better than that.
So tell me, what's next for you? So are you when do you go on to college?
So I'll be going into my senior year this year.
Got it. And what are your future plans? Obviously, you're phenomenal at baseball.
Yeah, going to college, most likely study finance or business management, and just try to play baseball definitely as long as I can, and probably get into something in that field.
Awesome. I'm just curious, are you not considering jumping straight to the pros? We know we've seen that happen before.
Yeah, I feel like it's definitely been a question that's out there, but I've tried to just not look too far ahead. If that opportunity comes, then it comes, and I'll worry about it then. But right now, just sticking with what I got next and just being where I'm at right now.
Tell me how your parents reacted to this. I saw someone, and I'm assuming here, I don't know who it was. It could have been your coach, but I'm assuming it was dad that set up your trophy there. What has been your parents' reaction to you now having this trophy behind you?
Yeah, it's been awesome. My dad was with me originally, and then we flew down my mom and my brothers, so they were all in the stands watching me that night. So it was awesome because this is just one of those moments where it's like they've been watching me forever, and now I'm hitting on a big stage in front of tens of thousands of people. So it was an awesome experience for me and them, and sharing that moment, it was awesome after winning it.
Brady, I'm curious, did you get to watch your competition go up before you? And who was your competition? Where were they from?
Yeah, so his name was Sullivan Reed. He's from Mississippi, and I'm so grateful that I got to know him. He's such an awesome person, has an awesome family, and we just had a great time down there. You know, he's a great player, and he'll definitely go on to do great things.
What does your team over there, Brother Rice, think about you hitting these 9 home runs?
Yeah, I know they were ecstatic. Everyone was texting me. It was unreal. But it's so cool to have a culture built like that at our school, you know, where everyone's got your back and everyone's rooting for you to do your best at all times.
Well, you deliver, that is for sure. Brady Cunningham from Brother Rice High School, winning the high school home run derby. Congratulations to you and your family. I know they have to be very proud of you. We appreciate your time here on Chicago Live, and best of luck to you.
Thank you for having me.
All right, it was a pleasure. Stay with us right here on Chicago Live. Give us a few minutes to reset here. Anita Blanton will steer you through the 4 o'clock hour. It has been a pleasure serving as your host today, and I'll see you soon. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
And that might save 1 life or 10 lives or 100 lives.
We want to go to our nation's House right now, where we're listening to a U.S. Representative for California's 43rd Congressional District. Maxine Waters is speaking right now. We want to listen in.
Tell states you cannot use these merchant codes. Any state in the United States of America, even those who started in some way using these codes, they're now saying they want a law that would preempt your state from being able to use the merchant codes. And so I yield back the balance of my time.
Yields back. The gentleman from Arkansas is recognized to close.
Mr. Speaker, I yield myself the balance of my time.
Gentleman's recognized.
I want to thank colleagues on both sides of the aisle for this debate. I want to thank Mr. Moore for writing this bill, drafting it, persuading the support that he has, and I urge all members on both sides of the aisle to support this bill in the name of privacy in the United States, and I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. All time for debate has expired. Pursuant to House Resolution 1423, the previous question is ordered on the bill as amended. The question is on engrossment and third reading of the bill. Those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. Third reading.
A bill to prohibit payment card networks and covered entities from requiring the use of or assigning merchant category codes that distinguish a firearms retailer from general merchandise retailer or sporting goods retailer and for other purposes.
For what purposes, the gentleman from Florida seek recognition?
Mr. Speaker, I have a motion at the desk.
The clerk will report the motion.
Mr. Frost of Florida moves to recommit the bill H.R. 1181 to the Committee on Financial Services.
Pursuant to Clause 2B of Rule 19, the previous question is ordered on the motion to recommit. The question is on the motion. Those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. The noes have it. The motion is not agreed to.
Speaker, I ask for the
Gentleman
yeas and
from
nays.
California seek recognition. From Florida, I apologize.
Mr. Speaker, I ask for the yeas and nays.
The yeas and nays are requested. Those favoring a vote by the yeas and nays will rise. A sufficient number having risen, the yeas and nays are ordered. Pursuant to Clause 8 of Rule 20, further proceedings on this question will be postponed.
Welcome back to Chicago Live. You've been watching what was going on there on the House floor. I kind of want to give you some perspective on what they were discussing at that time. They've been discussing two main issues, two bills that they've been centered on today. Permanent daylight saving time. We know there's been talk about that. The Sunshine Protection Act would end the twice-a-year clock change and make a daylight saving time permanent nationwide. They talked about that, but when we entered into that conversation there that they were having on the House floor where Maxine Waters was giving her perspective, she was specifically talking about the Tracking Firearm Purchases, the Protecting Privacy and Purchases Act, which would prohibit credit card networks and financial institutions from using special merchant category codes that separately identify gun and ammunition retailers. Republicans, they frame it as a privacy and Second Amendment protection, and critics actually argue the codes can help financial institutions identify suspicious purchasing patterns. We want to go to Senator Dick Durbin, who's actually speaking right now. Let's listen into that.
For 50 years at least. That would kickstart a process in both the House and the Senate to do something we rarely do around here. It's called legislating, writing a law, passing a law. Under our bill, Congress would have the opportunity to hold hearings, offer amendments, debate competing proposals, and ultimately vote on them. You say at this point, okay, Senator Durbin, what is this plan to save Social Security? That's the beauty of this proposal. We create an opportunity for alternative plans to be offered. And the one with the most votes, as long as it gets 60 votes in the Senate, the one with the most votes will prevail and be the work product of the Senate on Social Security. Our legislation does not lower the 60-vote threshold in the Senate, nor does it predetermine any specific outcome. It may not work. We may not be able to put together any bill that gets 60 votes. But goodness gracious, we were sent here to try, weren't we? It simply guarantees the American people, through their elected representatives, are finally going to have an open, transparent debate. I've gone to members of the Senate on both sides of the aisle and said, what we want to do is give you your day in court, give you your day in the Senate. You bring your best idea, and the parliamentarian looks at it and says, there's proof here that this has at least 50 years of solvency for Social Security. You can offer this amendment, Senator. Give it your best. Members would be able to offer substitute proposals provided that it's at least 50 years of Social Security solvency. Let me say that another way. Every member with a serious proposal for the most important social program in America would have the opportunity to bring their idea to the table, to the floor, and get a vote. That's so rare around here. It restores the Senate to debating, amending, and voting under regular order, compared to what we see today. Many of my colleagues have been working on proposals for a number of years. Many are broadly popular. I'll note that the senior senator from Ohio, a Republican, and the senior senator from Massachusetts, a Democrat.
right, 3 o'clock on the dot. Good afternoon, everyone. It's Anita Blanton here to take you through this final hour of Chicago Live before we turn you over to the 4 o'clock news. I certainly hope that you're having a wonderful afternoon. It is a hot one outside for sure. We're talking about some extreme heat revisiting our area, so we'll get to JD Rudd right around 3:30 or so to talk more in detail about what exactly we're experiencing today and how long it is hanging around. Again, that's going to be around 3:30. But let me tell you about some of the other things that are happening in this hour. It is pretty jam-packed as I'm just kind of looking over it. Around 3:45, we're going to have a conversation with our friends from Brookfield Zoo, Chicago, following up on this bison attack. If you have not seen the video circulating online, it is pretty shocking of a man in a state park, and he and his significant other are filming a bison. It's, you're in the wild, even though it's you're in the wild, and they're filming a bison. They got a little too close, and things went awry in a very big way, and so he ended up being attacked, and he is recovering now. But we're going to talk about how rare these instances are, but maybe how we as humans can do better to avoid those situations as well. Again, that's going to come up around 3:45 with our friends from Brookfield Zoo, Chicago. We are in the midst of so much, sports at a high level right now, and that's even before the NFL season begins. We're talking about football on Fox Chicago, of course. So we're coming down to the wire here. In fact, France and Spain are going at it right now. I think Spain is up at the moment here. France is like one of the favorites for the whole FIFA World Cup, but right now Spain has one up on them. So we're watching things. We have been for the last several weeks of FIFA World Cup action. And then, of course, this week we start with the MLB All-Star action. And we're going to hear from our colleague, Peter Cudahy, who's going to join us from Philly, I believe, to talk about the MLB All-Star action. And, of course, we're just wondering, we're looking over at Philly like, when is it coming back to Chicago? Our time is coming. Our time is coming. In fact, we have the WNBA All-Star Game that's just 2 weeks away here in Chicago. So we missed out on the FIFA World Cup. That was a big conversation going into the tournament, and we may not have the MLB All-Star Game this year, but we do have the WNBA All-Star Game, and that's coming up, I believe, on the 25th, and there's like a ton of events the few days before it and a few days after it. They made it a full All-Star weekend right here in Chicago. We'll talk more about that when we near that time. Just in case, you ever thought about that doomsday clock. We have brought the doomsday scientist on the show before to talk about their new calculations and whether we're going back or whether we're going forward. And today we're going to bring on an expert in the area of prepping. Okay, prepping for that doomsday clock. Now listen, it might sound a little far out there for you, but at the same time, this could be just emergency preparation. That could benefit you at any point in time. It could be for weather preparedness. It could be for more. So it never hurts to be prepared, right? So that's around 3:15 that we'll get to that conversation. But we're starting here with a conversation that I think is super important as we continue to really try to figure out how to best help our youth succeed here in the city of Chicago and well beyond. But of course, we're focused on Chicago. Most importantly, as we've been seeing these teen gatherings that can get out of hand, or when we've heard from teens who have said, we just want to feel like we could go anywhere in the city and be welcomed anywhere in the city. How do we mesh this together where teens have activities that are purposeful, that also help them to shine and ultimately help them to be the leaders of tomorrow that they were born to be, right? That would help all of us succeed. That's how we all succeed, when we pour into our youth in purposeful ways. And so we have a representative from the Teen Engagement segment for the Chicago Park District who is joining us, as well as the founder of Pep Rally Takeover to talk about Tip Fest. Thank you both so much for being here.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
And Ms. Drummond, tell me how to pronounce your first name.
It's Tamesia.
Tamesia, that's a beautiful name. Thank you
Thanks.
both. I really love the idea of this Tip Fest. Break it down for us. What tip? Let's start there. What TIP is an acronym for?
TIP is an acronym for Teens in the Park. That is one of the biggest initiatives that we have here at the Chicago Park District, because we want to make sure that we're doing exactly what you said, providing a space where teens feel welcomed here in every aspect.
And so when is this going to be happening?
Tip Fest is happening this Saturday. We are 4 days away from the biggest teen event that'll be held during the summertime in the city.
Tamesia, when I was getting ready to come up here and have this conversation with you, and I heard Teen Engagement Manager for the Chicago Park District, I was like, is that a new role? Is it?
Yes. So not only is my role new, but my unit is new. We are 4 years old. We just turned 4 years old. So yes, it is a new job title as well as a new unit here.
I love it. Congratulations to you and Rodney, the Pep Rally Takeover. So you're going to be working with the city, which is one of the big pieces of conversation as we have tried to, again, figure out like how does this work? Getting people in the community to then work with the city to come up with some solutions. Talk about how that partnership came about.
This partnership came about, I would say, throughout the years, working with the Park District, being a radio personality on WGCI, and just using my voice as a purpose and making sure these teens could just see like myself, like we use music and really amplify these. It really amplified these teen takeovers, but positive music at that. So with that being said, like we gathered up to like 13 teens to audition, and great talent around the city. But with Pep Rally Takeover, we usually go into Chicago public schools and reward kids through pep rallies and different initiatives from homecoming to prom to decision days and anything just to celebrate these kids, because I think that's what's really needed. These kids just want to be celebrated. They want to have fun. So that's what Pep Rally Takeover really brings.
Yeah, I mean, it's the summertime. I'm sure they do want to have fun. And look, the summer is going to fly by. So, in order to have positive spaces, I'm so glad that you mentioned, even the fact of being thoughtful about the music.
Yeah. You got to be thoughtful of the music. Music brings energy. You want to bring positive music. You want to, as a DJ, you want to not just play the popular songs or, the song that's going to get everybody rowdied up. But you got to think these kids, they got some great families and some great households, and they know music. We could take it back all the way to the 80s, the 90s, and they going to dance and have fun and party. Of course, we still going to play some of the hot songs and all that, but it's how you curate the music and how you really showcase it to the kids and create a show. So
I just wanted to piggyback off that. The Tip Fest is in its 11th year. It started off with Chance the Rapper as our headliner. It turned into a competition, and it's no longer a competition anymore. Now we're giving more opportunities for teens to not only showcase their talent, but they're getting paid to do so. Creating those respective spaces in this type of industry is far and less to be able to come by. And I think with Tip Fest and what the Chicago Park District has done the last 11 years is provide the largest platform for young people to be seen, heard, and in their own shape and form with guidance. And we've been doing just that.
And that aspect of with guidance. We were speaking with Jamal from My Block, My Hood, My City just last week, and some of his volunteers that work with him as they were getting ready for Downtown Day. And again, it's that same equation of people who come up with fantastic ideas to allow youth to be youth, to hang with their friends because they don't want to hang with us adults all the time, but to do it in constructive ways. And so I wonder, Tamisha, what other conversations you all have about having things like this where they do get to have this space, this fun time that ends on a high note and not a low note that we've seen in some of the unsanctioned, unsupervised activities.
Absolutely. I can speak about the Park District for days. We do have our summer teen tour that lists 90 days of teens' activities and places and spaces they would not otherwise travel to or that they're not privy to. We're giving them the access. We're giving them spaces to create, recreational activities or just find fun time to lounge around and find a place to go with their friends. Again, with guidance, we allow them into our facilities. There's a variety of things that they can do, anywhere from programming to events to just opportunities and resources. I do think that, that's important to allow them to have some freedom and some authority to say what they like to do, but with guidance, letting them know that, hey, you can speak freely here, but at the same time, we're going to guide you towards how to achieve the things that you guys are interested in. And again, I think that this particular festival this year, it's more of a, it's bigger than a takeover. We were giving them the space. We're giving them access to the beach. Tip Fest has never been on the beach before. We're giving them the whole, larger more adult scale festival feel this year. And it's 7 hours of fun. It's going to be 93 degrees on Saturday. And like I said, I just think that this is overall unique experience this year. And we've just transitioned Tip Fest out of the 10 years of maintaining this festival on this type of level.
Tamisha, Rodney, thank you so much for what you do. Is there a cost for Tip Fest? What do people need to know if they want to come out?
Tip Fest is free. Expect the unexpected. Expect to have an amazing time for 7 hours enjoying food while supplies last. Yes. Enjoy beach activities. There are going to be tons of activations, giveaways, contests, and it's an overall good family fun feels specifically for teens.
Check out all the dope talent that's going to hit the stage. And again, our headliner, Zeddy Will, going to be here. So Queen Key, D-Lo, Javen, Lil Chemo, Hawk, Mr. Scuba. So it's gonna be real fun. I'm gonna learn some dances.
Absolutely. It's gonna be something there for everybody. And it's still open to all ages with a focus on young people.
Every time I see a group of young people these days, they do that. I'm like, what is that? Where did that come from? Oh.
I'm telling them to get out the way. Like, move, they're doing this back.
And 7 hours, it's for teens because I'm tired already and it hasn't even started. But you all have a wonderful weekend. Thank you for what you're doing for our youth, and I hope everything is fantastic.
All right. Thank you for having us.
Take care. All right, everybody. 2 minutes, and then we'll get to our Nat Geo Explorer to talk about preparing for the unexpected. Okay, welcome back, everyone. It's 3:16 right now, and I already let you know about some of the great conversations that we've lined up for today. So any minute now, we're going to talk about preparing for the unexpected, or expected for some scientists that work on the doomsday clock and research this stuff day in and day out. One of the things that they talk about when they are anticipating whether the clock goes forward or goes back is how people should prepare themselves, how to make a plan, how to get ready for either staying in or evacuating. And yes, again, when you add in the doomsday clock, it may seem a little far out there. But even if you take it from just the standpoint of disaster preparation, hey, that's something we could all benefit from, a conversation we could all benefit from. What to do to protect your home. We have had countless, and I just say countless because I've lost track of the count, but we have had so many tornadoes that have come through our area that have many people throughout Chicago and even in Indiana. April, May, June, we saw tornado after tornado, and the was continuing to tick up. At one point, we were leading the country in tornadoes. So again, it doesn't have to be the doomsday clock. This could just be disaster preparation. And the truth is, we never know what disaster could look like for your home. It could be in the form of a natural disaster. It could be a tornado. The tools that you need on hand. Have you thought through that? Essentials for packing your go bag, should you need to leave on a moment's notice. Making an escape route. These are things that are generally we should all kind of have. We should all be prepared for. What to do before, during, and after. Things like hurricanes. We don't, have to worry about hurricanes here in Chicagoland, but earthquakes. Oh my goodness. Just had an earthquake over Lake Michigan last week. Now, obviously, it wasn't big enough where those of us on dry land were affected, but still, wildfires. We've seen the folks out in California have to deal with this day in and day out. We also saw people down in Florida having to deal with this as well. And, that these are common scenarios that people have to encounter. So again, even if you don't go all the way to the worst case scenario, there is a way that we could get something from this. Survival skills that any one of us could need in a moment's notice, including even how to stay cool if the power goes out. We're in the midst of yet another bout of extreme heat outside. We've talked about cooling centers. I was telling you yesterday, if you end up in a situation where you need to pop in somewhere, obviously, maybe you want to pop into a store or something like that, and that's close by. But if you're specifically looking for a cooling center, you can call 311, and they will direct you to the closest cooling center nearest to you. This is especially helpful for our seniors in the area. Checking on our neighbors is really important when we start to have this extreme heat like this, especially our elderly neighbors. So that scenario is maybe the most applicable for us, right? What to do if the power goes out. And we have definitely seen a lot of that in the last couple of months here. So these are just a few of the things, whether it's a heat wave, some other type of natural disaster, or yes, the possibility of the doomsday clock. Just being prepared. That could help us all. And so just as soon as our Nat Geo Explorer is on the line, we're going to bring them here into the conversation. But I will tell you, we're also now in the window of time. We're getting ready for a conversation about Major League Baseball All-Star games. We're going to bring in our reporter from Philadelphia to give us more of the scenes, the setting, the context as to what things are like there. Of course, they were even in the midst of a heat wave just a short time ago. I remember looking at some of the live pictures during the 4th of July weekend. And up and down the East Coast, they were having to cancel some events. I think specifically specifically for Philadelphia, they actually had to wait until late into the night, like after midnight, for them to be able to do their big concert with the fireworks because of the storms and the heat, and then the storms that came after them for their area. So we have Peter Cudahy, who is joining us now to bring us into the MLB All-Star Game action. Are you there?
Yeah, it's been an exciting day and an exciting weekend. We had the Home Run Derby yesterday, All-Star Village, and fans from across the country have come here to Philadelphia to watch the best players in the world. But it's not just the All-Star Game here in Philadelphia now. I mean, we had the World Cup, America 250. I keep saying it is the summer to be in Philadelphia.
The summer to be in Philly. Tell us exactly where you're standing and what when you say the summer to be in Philadelphia, what is the sentiment of people? I mean, what is the excitement level like right now?
Well, it's been through the roof, and I mean, a lot of it has been patriotism, and that's because of America 250, but it's been people from all different cultures coming together to visit really the birthplace of our country, and right now I'm on the third base line, and I have to tell you, I grew up right outside of Philadelphia, so being here for the All-Star Game, it's a really special moment for me. When I was a little kid, I wanted to be a Philly, so being here on the field, it's pretty cool.
Oh, it has to be. It has to be. And what are they doing on the grounds right now?
So right now they're just getting the field set up. They do have behind us, it looks like they're getting some batting practice ready for the players. We have seen some players going in and out of the dugouts. But for the most part, I mean, no fans are in the stadium yet. It's a lot of the pre-work, a lot of the stuff that you don't see, the behind the scenes. And we do have another about 3.5 hours until that first pitch. So we're going to see a lot of what you normally aren't shown right now, because again, game is not kicking off for another 3.5 hours.
Mm-hmm. Peter, right before you got on the line here, I was talking about with the viewers the fact that even your America 250 celebrations had to be moved to really late in the night because of the heat and then the storms that rolled through you all's area. What's the weather like now?
Yeah, well, I don't know if you can tell by looking at me right now, but I am sweating a little bit. It's going to be hot these next few days. Today, I believe it's like the mid-90s, and it's only going to get hotter these next 2 days. Luckily, I do have an umbrella to protect myself, and in between talking to you and other stations, I'm running inside to the AC, so making sure I stay cool.
All right, stay cool, stay hydrated, our friend. Thank you so much for taking us there onto the field before the big game tonight.
Great, thank you.
All right, take care. 3:24, everyone. And boy, again, just a lot of great stuff that's happening right now. And of course, you can catch so much of it on Fox Chicago. But let's go back to that conversation about, just being prepared for whatever comes. And we have our Nat Geo reporter, Explorer, who is here with us now. We want to thank so much Chris Begley for hopping on the line for us in a busy day. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Mm-hmm. I was saying that, preparedness, I mean, we can obviously talk about like the doomsday clock, but there is an element to this that is just basic for any home, for anybody, whether it's natural disasters or something else that could come, just to have your home and your mind prepared for what to do.
Yeah, that's right. There's really, in my mind, there's sort of three elements to preparedness, and one is the knowledge that you need to acquire, understand where you live, what kind of things might happen, the kinds of things you need to do to keep yourself safe or maybe get out of there if you need to. Then after that, there are some skills that might come into play. And then really last on the list is the stuff. The gear, the equipment, the tools, and all of that can be important, but not compared to the knowledge.
Mm-hmm. And when you say knowledge, what are some of the things that we should have in our minds, that we should be mulling over or really commit to memory?
Yeah, well, think about the kinds of things that you might encounter there in Chicago. I mean, it's going to be, storms, potentially tornadoes, potentially flooding in certain areas. So understand the things that you're at risk for, and then consider where it is that you live. I mean, we all know what traffic is like or can be like in Chicago. And so one of the things is, how are you going to get out of there? What if you live in a high-rise apartment versus, a suburban home? That might change the way you prepare and the kind of actions you would take if you need to do something.
Mm-hmm. What would you put on a to-do list? What do you think people should think about when it comes to that?
Well, there's a few different things. The first would be to understand what you're really at risk for. One of the things that I think is unfortunate is we've had sort of a prepper culture that is kind of fed into the fear and the sensational things that might happen. And some of those things could happen, of course, but mainly we're going to be dealing with the same kinds of things that we've been dealing with our entire lives. Storms, blizzard, power outages, those sorts of things. That would be one thing. Know who to listen to and where to get information from. I mean, that's partly why we wrote this book. You can have something that is at least a start, that you can get some basic information, and then you need to know who to turn to. Who's trustworthy, who's giving you the real story and not some sales pitch, for instance. And then, lastly, you might think about some things like, well, if you need to stay, what do you need to have in your house or in your apartment? If you need to go, what do you need to understand? Different routes that you can get out of town and that sort of thing. And also, of course, understand where you might be going.
Mm-hmm. And so you have the emergency playbook, a bunker-free guide to disaster preparation. Tell me why you say a bunker-free guide.
Well, many of us are familiar with sort of doomsday preppers, TV shows and all of this, this sort of idea that how you prepare for stuff is to build this fortress or this bunker and then accumulate a bunch of stuff and protect your stuff and your family. Now, it's certainly important to have some emergency things, some water, some food, but what really happens after an emergency, I mean, think of a hurricane, think of an earthquake. You're not holed up in a place by yourself. And so we wanted to create something that explicitly talked about the kinds of things that are likely to happen to people.
So you said likely to happen to people, and I see that your book really emphasizes the aspect of community. Why did you want to make sure that was a highlighted piece?
Well, partly that's a reaction to this sort of individualistic idea. I mean, that's part of our, national character, right? Or our mythical history. We think of these rugged individualists. And that's really has never been true. That's not how things get done. I mean, of course, individuals do things, but it's communities. When we look at who recovers from an earthquake, you look right now in Venezuela, it's not some heroic individual, it's communities, dozens, hundreds of people coming together to do what they need to do in the moment. And then, of course, there's going to be a long recovery, and that's going to take a community. And so for me, one of the disservices that we've done is to really focus on the individual rather than how you fit into your community, which is, for better or worse, the way it's going to be.
Mm-hmm. I think that is both a necessary but also a beautiful aspect of this. And one thing that I feel when we definitely saw it during COVID-19, we see it, whenever we talk about, the major snow event or something like that, is that people go from 0 to 100 really fast in trying to prepare at the last minute. So if you're talking about something now in preparation for something that could be at any point in time down the road, how do you know in terms of like what's worth storing and how much you need?
Okay, that's a really good question. One of the first things might be to think about the things that you would need in many different scenarios and that you might want to keep together in a bag that you can grab at a moment, a go bag that you can just have that and your stuff is in there. That might include insurance papers, titles to your house or your car, maybe rental papers, birth certificates, marriage certificates, things like that, documents that you might need later, because the place that you're in right now, has the potential to not be there later. I mean, think about something like a flood and your house washes away. You would never recover those documents. So getting those documents together is important. There could be some basic things like some water and some food to help keep you going for a couple of days, but it's going to be hard to carry very much. So that's going to be very temporary. And then maybe some tools that can help you do the kinds of things that you might need to do. What comes to mind for me would be some way to start a fire. I mean, that could be something you need to do if you're sort of stuck outside somewhere. Maybe a knife or some way to cut string or rope that you could use to, create a shelter. Maybe you'd want one of those plastic tarps that you can get anywhere for, $5. Those sorts of things are simple, they're cheap, and all of that you could keep in a book bag size backpack that wouldn't be that bad. So that would be one way to prepare. Another way to prepare would be to to create emergency plans and a few contingencies. I mean, imagine this. Something comes up and you need to evacuate if you're in an area with a wildfire or a hurricane. Well, this may not happen when your entire family is at home. So what do you do if the kids are at school? What do you do if you're at work? What do you do if your spouse is at work or your extended family? How do you communicate with people? What do you rely on? Have a backup plan. What if there was no cell communication? I mean, think about 9/11 in New York. Yeah. Nobody was able to call other people. And so if you have a contingency plan, somewhere to meet, some way to operate when these things happen, that's a big part of preparation as well.
All fantastic points there. On a final note, are there some things that people really go wrong with when it comes to preparation that maybe we can put out there before I let you go?
Well, yeah, I think one of the things is to become overwhelmed and just not do anything. I mean, it is a little overwhelming, and most of us don't have a lot of extra disposable income to buy things that we're not going to use. And most of this emergency equipment, if you're lucky, you're not really going to use it. So it's hard to justify that sometimes. It's hard to, come up with the money, come up with the time to do these things. So I think one thing people get wrong is to think it's going to cost a lot of money or take a lot of time, or that you have to do it all at once. This is something you could start now with something simple like, what do we do if we can't communicate? Is there a place that we want to meet? Do we have a couple of options? What if we need to get out of town? Are there friends or relatives where we could go to? Something simple like, do I have enough water to last me a week or two if something happens to the water system? Do I have some extra canned food or food that will keep? And all of that stuff you can buy little by little, and it doesn't have to be a big thing. So I think one of the things we get wrong is that. think the other thing that we get wrong is thinking that we're going to have to emulate what you see the heroes in these apocalyptic stories do. That's just not how it works. It's going to be people trying to rebuild in the place that they're from. And that, I think, is something that we need to keep in mind.
Great speaking with you today, Chris. Thank you so much. Again, the author of The Emergency Playbook, a bunker-free guide to disaster preparation. We appreciate your time.
Well, thank you very much.
Take care. It's 3:36, everyone. Give us 2 minutes, and then we're going to bring in our friend, the meteorologist here on tap, JD Red. All right, everybody, 3:38. We obviously want you to keep watching here, but we've got to be honest. We were all glued on Fox Chicago in the break because Spain is up on France 2-0.
2-0. That wasn't expected.
No! Oh, my goodness.
So somebody somewhere is having a panic attack right now, and somebody else is looking at their sports betting app going, yes, please, more.
Oh, my goodness. This is getting really good. What's been good, all except for the U.S. getting kicked out.
That whole thing.
But it's getting really good. Now, let's get to the matter of the day, and that is the weather outside. Man, this heat is in full effect.
Well, can I break some news? About
Did we break a record?
12 minutes ago, no records broken. About 12 minutes ago, though, we hit 96 degrees, which would be the hottest temperature we've had so far in 2026.
Look at it. You know it's hot when we don't even have that many
Nobody
people out
at
at the bean.
They're saying
You know
no.
it's hot.
So 96, hottest day of 2026 thus far, and the first time we've seen 96 or better in the month of July since 2020.
Really?
Yeah, we've peaked out at 95, and that was last year. Prior to that, it was 94, 93, 92. It hasn't gotten super hot in July the past handful of years. I find that very interesting.
It is.
And we've not seen 97 in July since 2012. It seems odd, but that's just the way things have been for us the past, 13, 14 years.
Now, are you bringing that up because we're getting ready for a 97?
I'm bringing it up because we've hit 96 today, and we still have an hour or two left of heating to go where we could jump up. Now, we've fallen back down at the lakefront to 94. That's the lakefront. Remember, the official Chicago temperature comes from O'Hare Airport. Nobody lives at the airport, but that's just where the readings are taken because that's where the history books go back. There's a whole thing about it. I do want to point out, too, up the road in Milwaukee, they're down to around 99 right now, but last hour they were at 100 degrees.
Oh, wow.
And that's something Milwaukee hardly ever does, hitting triple digits. Almost anybody near the Lake Michigan, western side of Lake Michigan, it's hard to hit 100 degrees.
Yeah.
So they have done that there today. But of course, the air temperature, Anita, is not the full story. There is a little bit of humidity out there. So this is the heat index value, which again, these numbers are not absurd. They're not disrespectful like they were a couple of weeks ago, but they're still, it's up there around 99 to 100 degrees in most cases is what it feels like right now.
And I mean, and we say that, we feel it, and yet when we're looking at this map, it's like, well, I guess we should be grateful we're not a lot of other places.
Yeah, because it could be so much hotter. Look at like Saginaw, Michigan, 106. Dew points are higher there. That's part of the reason we've not seen the super high dew points here. I mean, it's muggy, don't get me wrong. You step outside, you're going to glisten, you're going to glow a little bit, but it's not as bad as what it was a couple of weeks ago.
Where are we in the full scale of this heat wave?
We're just beginning. This is day number 2. Tomorrow will likely be the hottest day. Tomorrow I foresee being just as hot as today, if not a little bit hotter by a degree or 2. Heat index value is around 100 to 105. But something new has entered the chat. As you see here at the bottom of this graphic, wildfires are now burning across southern Canada, and the newest data is suggesting with this north to northeast wind over the next couple of days, wildfire smoke.
Yeah, I saw something this morning or last night that was talking about the air quality deteriorating as the week goes on.
The air quality right now, we have an ozone alert in place, we have an air quality alert in place for ozone. That's just because of how hot and humid it is, but I wouldn't be surprised once we get toward Thursday, Friday, if it's more not just for ozone, but because of just poor air quality in general with particulates in the air from the wildfire smoke, because it could be pretty thick over the area on Thursday.
Really?
Now, given the take of that, and so we're kind of gets into the nuts and bolts, the meats and potatoes of the matter here. If the wildfire smoke is thick enough on Thursday, that would limit the heating of the sun a little bit, so it might curtail the temperature by a couple degrees. So pick your poison. Do you want to have nasty, smoky air to breathe in? Or do you want high temperatures in the low 90s with heat index values around 100?
It sounds like either way for people who have
respiratory issues.
Yeah. If you have any type of respiratory issue, asthma,
COPD, any of those kind of things.
Yeah. Or runners. Hey, I know you're trying to get ready. But these are some of the pivotal times for your marathon preparation in the fall. But alternate means. It's
2026. There's these wonderful things indoors called treadmills. They work very well, I'm told.
I know.
I don't partake much, but I'm told they work well.
I know.
Not the same as running out there on the concrete. I know,
it's not.
But
you got to do what you got to do.
Got to be cautious.
When I was prepping for the Chicago Marathon a few years ago, I had to run 18 miles on a treadmill because you don't want to get behind on your training dates when you're in that locked into your schedule for marathon training, and I had a scheduled trip, and so I was like, gotta do what you gotta do.
Here's what I have to do.
18 miles on this all in one place.
Stationary, that's the thing.
Miles.
Yeah, that's the hardest part.
Worst day.
The scenery's not changing, you're just right there, and it's different on the knees. I mean, I get it. But just be cautious.
Anyhow, be cautious. That's really all. We've said all of that to just say, be cautious, be mindful of what's going on out there.
Because as I said, this is day 2 of the heat. Tomorrow, just as hot as today, perhaps a little hotter. We're still in the 90s on Thursday, but again, if the smoke is thick enough, maybe I drop that value closer to 90. I'm still thinking low 90s Friday, Saturday. Some better chances for rain and thunder sneaking in. I can't rule something out late Thursday night, maybe early Sunday morning as well. And then if all goes well, quote unquote, we might see a little cooling trend
Look at that
next
75
week.
Sneaking in.
Maybe. It's all about cloud cover and wind direction. I still have to dig through some deeper data, and I might fine-tune that. But the overarching point here is that there is some cooler air. Hear me out. Cooler, not cool
not
air.
Cool.
Just cooler than what we've been dealing with.
Now, the interesting thing when you say not cool, of course, when we do start to see 75 pop up, you do wonder, is this, and I know you are the numbers guy, so just like you told me, like when we were coming into the summertime temperatures, like Anita, this day in May.
Yeah.
So is there a date when we are on the arc and start to?
Not until after the first part of August. Our typical average high kind of hovers at 85 all throughout July and to the first day of August. Then it ticks down to about 84 on the 2nd of August. We really don't hit the downward spiral big time until September, which is meteorological fall because the temperatures start falling. So we've still got time to sweat it out profusely.
And I say that because, we're talking about extreme heat this week, but it's also summertime shy.
Yes.
And we want to be able to actually get out and do stuff without the extremes.
That's
either extreme.
Everybody's got a different flavor on this kind of stuff. Some folks like vanilla, some like chocolate, some like 90 degrees and humid, some do. Some say, this is my summer. Give this to me. Others go, 80 would be okay. 80 would be fine. But there are those, I know, the pool lovers, the lake lovers, the hotter the better, so they can jump in that water, cool off, and be fine. So a little something for everyone.
All right. Thank you, sir. We will see you coming up on the 4 o'clock news. All right. And everybody give us 2 minutes before we get to our final conversation. Going over to our friends at Brookfield Zoo, Chicago. All right, welcome back, everyone. It's just about 3:50, and so it's time for our final conversation of the day here on Chicago Live, and we really got to talk about the viral video of the week, and that is the video of a man and his significant other out at a park, like a state park, a national park, and spotting a bison and being very taken by the bison, but maybe getting a little too close and having an encounter that has now been viewed all across the world, really, in a very short span of time. Let's go ahead and bring in Nancy Kaufman, a bison expert with the Brookfield Zoo Chicago, to give us some tips, some advice, some insight, some context as to what we've all seen and conversed about over the last 24, 48 hours here. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Yeah, absolutely. Great to be here.
Okay, now what went through your mind as a bison expert when you saw this video?
I mean, I think the biggest thing for viewers to understand is that this is prime time breeding season. So the summertime, oftentimes the time that we are out taking vacations with our family, this is the time when bison are really active. They're in what's known as rut, which is their breeding season. So a couple behaviors that you're seeing from that big male bison is he's wallowing, and that is a very normal behavior. It helps with getting the flies off of them. It helps with getting fur off of them because they're shedding that winter coat. It also leaves around their scent, and when they make that big gesture of getting up, that's kind of looking for the ladies and saying, hey, look at me, I'm pretty impressive, aren't I? So that's kind of that first behavior that you're seeing with the bison.
Yeah, I did see them go down, similar to like what you see with horses, where they kind of go down, like you said, kind of getting rid of the summer or the winter coat and getting ready for the summer. And so were these humans too close?
I think there's a lot to unpack. Just in the video that I've seen, it seems that the bison's at a campground, and that's a pretty normal place to have a lot more than just these people. And so I think there's a lot of different factors. There's a truck going by, there's these individuals who seem to be a pretty good distance away, and while they're taking a photo, they move around pretty quickly. But once bison get up and they start either feeling threatened or feeling like they need to protect now their territory, they're going to start moving, and they can move pretty quick. You know, what the gentleman did in that video of trying to get the trees in between him and the bison is what he needed to do. You know, if you're ever in this predicament, which I hope nobody is, you know, you want to try and get distance between you and that animal. Unfortunately, these guys are really quick. They can go 35 miles per hour, and they're pretty agile. You saw how quickly he ran around those trees. So they're very impressive. They look really cute, but best to be observed from a distance.
Now, with say bears, there's always the discussion of, is it better to run or not run? For bison, what is the best?
Just give them a wide berth. If you can, let them do their thing and stay out of that territory. You know, again, at a campground, you need to be safe, and that's kind of where we expect people to be. But just because you're doing the right thing doesn't mean that other people around you are. And so I think with all those factors playing in mind, especially as we're going out and stopping and smelling the roses, we need to be really mindful of what the other animals are doing and just really giving wildlife their space. Because when we're going out and we're enjoying nature, we're entering an animal's home. So we need to respect that territory just as we would expect someone to respect our home and our territory.
Absolutely. But if it locks eyes with you and you lock eyes with it, should you sprint or should you stay put?
I think be calm and do your best to put distance between yourselves. But bison eyesight really isn't that great. So quick movements can be viewed as threatening. So I think trying to get as much distance as you can from them is the most important thing, and staying calm and trying not to add to that craziness.
Now, once a bison has had that kind of experience with the human, what do you think happens after that? Are they more inclined to have that kind of experience again?
I think it depends. It depends on the environment, right? So especially in a national park, bison are coming in contact with people frequently, and a lot of times it's not the bison's fault, and it's not necessarily the people's fault either, especially if they aren't doing research into what is actually happening. Again, this is prime time breeding season, and a lot of people who are going to national parks right now might not realize that because they are on summer vacation. They're just trying to get a vacation in with their family. But it's really important that we do our due diligence before we put ourselves in these situations where we might be interacting more closely with wildlife. The bison probably is now off doing its own thing and looking for females to breed with. But it's something to be aware of, and to just understand that when we are entering their space, we are now taking that safety upon ourselves, and we need to do our best to just let them be wild and give them the space that they deserve. Even if they come into the campground.
You know, I would have been like, it's your home. I'm going to exit expeditiously. Maybe I'll get a picture on the go.
Just kind of moonwalk out of it.
Something tells me to get this picture on the go. Any other best pieces of advice for people? I mean, yeah, like you said, I mean, this is also prime time for people to be traveling and to be visiting national parks. So any other great piece of advice that you want to leave people with who are going to be traveling, or maybe already have it on their plan for this summer to get to one of these national parks with a lot of wildlife?
Yeah, do your research. Understand where you're going, what animals you could potentially come in contact with. Snakes, bears, bison. Kind of knowing the do's and don'ts, staying on marked paths, really letting wildlife be wildlife, and understand that these animals are very impressive and they are extremely strong and fast. And if you really want to enjoy that wildlife, it's important that you protect it. And one of the ways that you protect it is you respect it and just watch from a distance, enjoy nature, get outside. Our national parks are incredible. I encourage everyone to go to them, but really be respectful of the home that you're walking into, of these wildlife and wild places.
Yeah, great advice. Now, do we have bison there at Brookfield Zoo Chicago that we don't have to worry about these types of things with?
Yeah, we have 4 bison here. We have 2 females and 2 males. And you can see them over by Great Bear Wilderness, and they are definitely wallowing and hanging out and shedding their hair. And so if you want to see bison up close without the dangers of being in their space, come on down to Brookfield Zoo Chicago. We're happy to have you and show you our part of the world.
Yeah, that sounds like a much safer equation. And easier at that. Much easier and safer. Thank you so much for what you do and for joining us here on the show. We appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, that video is just wild. Watching that man get thrown high up into the air and come down. You obviously wish the best for him as he recovers. Glad that he has the opportunity to recover from that, because it was just such a split second. Just what a moment watching that all play out. And then, of course, it goes all over the internet. So it's not like he could live it down at this point in time. Everyone has either seen or probably will see that video. But we're so glad that we have our friends there at Brookfield Zoo Chicago to be able to call on, to get some information so that we never end up in a situation like that. And should we lock eyes with one, you've been warned about what you need to do, giving them their distance so that you can have a next day to be able to tell your story as well. Thank you so much for joining us here on the show, everybody. Really quickly, as we get ready for the 4 o'clock news, Joni Lum is on some reaction to ice activity that's been ticking up. She'll be in Little Village. Leslie Moreno is working on a rat follow in DuPage. And let's see, we also have a Munster Data Center rally that we're following as well. We'll see you back here for Chicago Live tomorrow from 1 to 4.